Well, good afternoon and welcome to another in a series of special edition of TalkSports. Well, what do you know? This afternoon we should be speaking with no other than Ashley Ramfolks, the former president of the Grenada Football Association. He's also a former player and captain as well as coach of the Grenada national team, and he should be joining us very shortly. That's Mr. Ashley Ram Folks, and we expect to have a very good session with Mr. Folks, this afternoon, as he's getting some of the little kinks worked out. And he should be on with us very, very shortly. That's Mr. Ashley Ram Folks. But interesting enough, as I indicated from Thursday, when we had the para athlete Ishana Charles, that coming up on Thursday, we'll have two professional basketballers, Akim Robertson and Daniel Regis, who will be speaking with us. Basketball has been getting quite a number of promotions in the program over the past few weeks. We have had, Kevin Cox, we had Naka speaking as well in terms of basketball, quite a lot of basketball. And we obviously will have to get in some other sporting disciplines. But then on next Saturday, Paul Roberts should be joining us. Paul Roberts, as you know, a former station manager. In fact, he has been credited as among the first to start FM broadcasting in Grenada, along with Stanley Charles. And Paul will be speaking specifically on the sports media. You know, Paul has been a beacon of sports broadcasting in Grenada. He has also been an administrator. He's a former national goalkeeper. He's also was a former official, especially in basketball. So he will be with us as well come next Saturday. And then for the first Thursday in September, we'll be starting with the Ministry of Youth and Sports. Mr. Colin Peters, who's the coordinator of sports, will be joining us to speak with us. So quite a lot in store for the program as we await Mr. Folks, who is trying to get on there. As soon as we get his mic and video up, he will join us. But indeed, if we can look back at probably some of the other programs, last Saturday, for example, Sir Walter St. John, who would have thought that Sir Walter St. John at the age of 84, quite articulate and, collective in terms of his memories. And he was able to share with us quite a bit, was able to go almost 2 hours, speaking at age 84. That was tremendous. Appreciate that. And then previous to that, we had Ray Roberts and a little piece of Red Spur, but Ray was quite in depth in his knowledge. He gave us, his background in terms of how he started, what he has done over the years, and his involvement, not just in sports broadcasting, but sports in particular, because he's the current president of the Grenada Paralympic Committee. And Ray has been a bastion in terms of his sports commentary for many, many years. Up to this day, Ray still has a sports column, and he has been providing, articulating the views, sports views, as you say it. When he was not on radio, he still continues it in the newspaper, as he has a weekly column in the Grenadian Voice, bringing us sports. And then who will forget the great Fitzgerald Naka Joseph, giving us quite a bit on, the energy of Gov, as he says, and quite tremendous indeed. Naka, thank you very much for that, and hopefully we'll be able to speak to others in other parishes as well. Good afternoon to you, Sherwood Merriman, Pastor Merriman. I'm glad to see that you were on. Merriman, as you know, a former sportsman himself, played quite a number of sports, football, I think basketball, volleyball, represented Grenada in secondary school sports, MacDonald College, as well as St. John's Christian Secondary School. Those were the days, man. Thanks very much for your contribution to sports. And over the period of time, we will be getting and chatting with these young men and women. I say young, they have grown, and developed, but they will be able to share and inspire others as to how they were able to move to that stage. Of course, Sherwood Merriman would have been a dead product of the Ram folks. I think so. Yeah, of the Ram folks. Ram folks would have been very instrumental in developing quite a number of young sportsmen and women. Some of them who have gone on to colleges, universities, excel academically as well, and have returned to Grenada and made their contribution. Some have gone on to other places and done their part. Very, very interesting indeed. As we hope to spread the message. And I can share with you that since we started the program, the many requests we have been having of organizations and personnel trying to get involved, and the trying to highlight, and it's so tremendous that so many things are happening that we don't know of. Groups, even in the diaspora, that have been supporting sports. Feel free to get in touch with me, and I will always try to see where I can fit you in. I am balancing that with my normal schedule of work, so it's not that I'm doing this program full time. I'm just doing that when it's possible, like on a Saturday or on a Thursday evening when I'm not at work and things like that. So once you know of anything that you think will be able to assist in terms of promoting sports, promoting the development of sports, particularly in Grenada, please feel free to let us know. We are aware that there is a void in sports and sports reporting in Grenada. We cannot just cry and plead, but if there's something we can do, let's do it, and that is why I'm, getting on this bandwagon. Sports broadcasting, sports has been my passion, and over the years, I've seen how the media in particular have just turn a blind eye on sports. They talk a lot about first in sports coverage, but be specific. They are first in international sports coverage, taking it from the BBC or whatever. But in terms of actual coverage of sports, day-to-day coverage of sports, Ray told us that almost on a daily basis, the number of people who are in the various playing fields. But we don't see that. We don't hear about it in the local, the local media. We hear a lot of and see a lot of politics, a lot of, as they say, the sensational stuff. Only when, someone makes it big, they'll make the front page or the back page or something, or there's something controversial in sports. Oh, Braylon Taplin, ban. That became a big headline. But what's about the others? Whether it's someone from Hurricane, someone from Paradise or Hard Rock, or just name it, some other. What's about that? These things don't get highlighted, and it's sort of embarrassing, that we have so many talents in Grenada, and yet they are not highlighted, they are not exposed, and we have a part to play. And if this program can do that in the meantime, I think the COVID-19 would have created this opportunity, for something like that. And hopefully it doesn't have to be me, but it could be someone else who can continue that when it's no longer available. But whenever there's an opportunity like that, I take advantage of it, because, our sportsmen and women, they deserve better. Truly, they deserve better. So we are still await Mr. Ram Folks. I spoke to him just before getting on air, and I think he may be having a little slight problem getting on. I hope he will be able to link with us as soon as possible, so that we'll be able to make that connection. Whatever problems he's having, he will be able to get on with us. But it's not not bad to let you know that Mr. Folks should be getting on sooner or later. I hope he will be on. He's just waiting. I sent him the link, and he should be able to get on with us very, very soon. But indeed, quite a lot we're hoping to discuss, because, Mr. Folks himself has been, as they say, some describe as a victim, as a victim of the the football establishment over the years. Some people don't like his style, and obviously, whether you're the president, the prime minister, the leader, there's always be the critics who don't like your style of leadership. They always believe theirs is the best, or whatever it is. And so it may be, but he has been one who has been, quote unquote, the victim. He has stood up against the establishment and paid a heavy price, and hopefully we'll be hearing his story, and how he, fall from grace. Should I say that? No. How eventually he was vindictive, because most of the people who somehow had pressured Mr. Fawkes over the years, as I said, some, they are either in jail, some on the run, and some are awaiting sentencing. We will discuss that. But while we wait on Mr. Fawkes, in case there is anything that you want to talk about in regarding sports, feel free to let me know. The CPL is on. Oh, by the way, and obviously we'll probably hear from Mr. Fawkes as well, because Grenada has been grouped. They have the CONCACAF put out their group in, and Grenada is in a very challenging group, I should say, and it will be interesting to see how Grenada can move past that stage. I think they have the ability, they have the talents, but sometimes it's just the confidence in making it. If they could have, reached the Gold Cup finals 2 consecutive seasons, I don't think there's no reason why Grenada cannot perform. We do have the talents. Most times we just hear the problem it has to do with finance and the issue of getting warm-up games, as we heard from Shalby Joseph, the former coach, that there was an issue of getting warm-up games for the team, and the cry by the association of lack of funds and things like that. So and some players, as you would have seen in the comments, some of the players supported Mr. Joseph, Shalby Joseph, in that view, that they believe that one of the problems was lack of, practice games. They just training, and not the ability to see where they are, gauge their performances against, competitive teams. And it's kind of, the psyche of the players. It affected the psyche of the players, So once again, Mr. Fawkes should be on with us very, very shortly. I'm seeing that he is looking to get on, and I'm hoping that he will be able to make it soon. Edwin Sam, I'm in your neighborhood. I'm in New Jersey, actually. I'm actually doing the program from New Jersey this afternoon. I'm in somewhere in Jackson Township. Yeah, Jackson Township. When I get a time off, I try to do some moving about. Whether it's hopefully in Buffalo, New Jersey, as in this case, probably Connecticut another time. Just enjoying the time I have available, and connecting and reconnecting with folks. So, Mr. Fawkes, if you get that last message there, I think you should be able to be with us now. Hopefully, you will be able to make that big connection there. We do really want to hear from you, folks. And I did not get a call. Oh, no, don't worry about that. I know. It was a pre-approved arrangement, and with New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut together, there's no need for me to register. And I saw the notice about if you're coming from out of state, call. I think it's 311 or 511, whatever it is. I'm COVID free for now. Quite a lot is happening, folks, in sports. Just to let you know, in terms of the cricket, there is the tests between England and Pakistan that is actually on, and England 563 for 7. Yes, you're hearing the correct score. It's day 2 of day 5, And England batting against Pakistan. They are now 569 for 7. England continues to pile up the runs against Pakistan. Wow. Wow. I can tell you that there were 152 from Butler and 267 from Crawley. That's runs, man. That's runs. So the bulk of the runs coming from Crawley, 267, and Butler, 152. And England, as it is now, they are 569 for 7. What else do you expect? Wow, England. So it was a very competitive team when England actually played against West Indies. I know quite a few folks didn't really agree that, West Indies gave off their best. They thought they could have been very competitive, but as you can see, England is no flukes, and they mean business, folks. So we will see how I can make that connection with Mr. Folks shortly. Let me just see. I should be able to get through to Mr. Folks very, very, very soon. Let me see if I can make that link now. Okay, folks, I think we have solved that problem. So, welcome back. And as we said, let me just get that thing there. Brango will always be more popular than brainstorming because it requires a little thinking or no thinking at all, discourse and discussion to enlighten or after overwhelm by diatribe and dogma. waiting on Mr. Ram Folks. Well, you don't have to wait no more because Mr. Folks is on. And I don't need to give any major introduction again because everyone knows Mr. Folks. By the way, you are looking good, Mr. Folks. You are looking good.
I'm just hiding away from COVID-19.
No, but
So resting and whatnot.
Well, folks. When I say folks, I'm talking about not folks as Ashley Folks, but folks as my viewers. Look at Mr. Ashley Ram Folks. At his age, look at him. Once again, welcome. So as I was indicating, Mr. Folks, that we have quite a lot to discuss. And I want to thank you for agreeing to be, because I don't think you have been in the media talking about sports, talking about football for quite a while, since you have officially retired. So first of all, how have you been coping with the pandemic? How have you been keeping yourself alive, as we should say?
Well, at my age, I'm first of all, let me tell everybody hello, I'm safe. I heard a few rumors that I died, others that are real sick. So far, I haven't been sick at all. And as you can see, I'm alive and kicking and well. Nice. What I'm doing is hiding from the pandemic. I don't go out because the death rate in America is the highest in the world. And because you wonder, why should people go out and have party and jump up and whatnot? And a lot of it is without masks, without distancing. And I say, we in the Caribbean are not that stupid. Sorry to say, but we're not that stupid. And I'm not a Trump follower to follow Trump without mask and die while he alive. No way.
Okay. Well, I can't. I know the comments will be coming fast and furious. So some of those I don't want to miss them. So Clev Defredine is asking, "What you drinking, youngster? What you drinking?"
What? But honestly, I think it's in the genes. I was in Maryland over the last 2 weeks, and I went for checkup on 2 occasions. And one of the doctors said, "Is that your age?" That's the first time. I say, "Yeah." And then, as though I'm an imbecile, he said, "What is your date of birth?" He have it written in front of him. I want to give him a date of birth. He said, "You look 20 years younger. How you do that?" I said, "I just living." I went back in about 2 weeks' time, met a nurse. She didn't know what the doctor told me. And she said, "No, that can't be your age." And that always happened. But I'll tell you what, I have a sister who's about 5 years older than me and look younger than me.
Wow.
And listen to this. And this is why I say it has to be in the genes. I have 5 siblings, brothers and sisters. I'm 72. And I have 5 siblings, brothers and sisters who are older than me and ready to go. 5. So you can understand it. It's one of those God-given things. It's just maybe the genes, but staying alive and behaving myself, I think that helps.
I hope behaving yourself means not being in football. Right?
No, let me make this clear. I want to be in football. I want to be in the community. A lot of people don't know what was my trade or what was my living, because everybody know me in football. If I tell people I did architecture and I used to be drawing and doing construction, few people know that side of me. Most people know the football side of me. And I still spend a lot of time on developing systems and plans and things like that to make the football better. I would always serve football, irrespective of who's at the top. I cannot sit back as I have been doing and see Grenada football fall into pieces. Yeah, I don't have to be in the leadership per se to do it. I don't have to be the president to do it. You follow?
Yeah.
I've always been doing it before being president, and Fontenoy United is testimony.
Wow. Well, I don't know. Mr. Fox, to be honest, I think the presence of you and how you're looking really threw me off in terms of my questions.
Yeah. You want to stop that? All right, I'll tell you one little bit. Which some people call crazy. All right. And that's the way I live. When I believe in something, I just believe in it. I practice what you call intermittent dieting. Intermittent dieting. Intermittent dieting means you eat for a certain amount of hours and you do not eat. I don't want to use the word fast because when you use the word fast, a lot of people get frightened. Oh, you're starving yourself. No. In a 24 hours day, I eat within a window of 12 hours. I do not eat in the remaining time. Not 12, sorry, 8 hours. I eat for 8 hours within a window of 8 hours. Nice. And then the 16 hours, I do not eat. But technically, I'll start to take my first meal at 11. And the next meal, I take it evening time. You know, a lot of people, when they're ready to go and sleep, you eat big, you eat this. And I don't starve myself. I don't feel hungry. But intermittent dieting takes care of the body, how the body breaks down the food, get chance, and you drink a lot of water. And that's what I've been doing for a while now.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that. So here, let's just go into the meat of the matter now. See that we have laid the basis of why and how you look at that way, Mr. Fox.
Thank you.
First of all, are you originally from the village of Fontenoy?
I wish I could have been more from the village of Fontenoy. My mother, my father, they lived in Fontenoy when I was quote unquote conceived. I've never left Fontenoy. I would not leave Fontenoy. Never.
Oh,
I
so
believe it's one of the best places in the world.
born and
Seriously.
bred, born and bred
Yeah,
in Fontenoy.
born, bred, everything in Fontenoy.
And
My
and, talk, and yeah, and talking about Fontenoy, I mean, the Ram folks is synonymous with the Fontenoy Football Club. You know, over the years. And something we will get to in a moment because we have quite a few to talk about in terms of the local football, your involvement in football during the revolution, especially the PRA, and the folks who would have the guys who played there and then came into the club system, the national team, and how you were able to get the guys in the army playing football. I don't know if that was part of the plan or your plan or the revolution plan, but let's go from the formative stage of football. You played youth football.
Um, I played, no, you hardly had youth football at that time. But because you're born in Point, there was a place we called the Sanyard, at the same time the beach. So I started football even before I knew anything about going to the park or anything. We played a lot in Fontenoy. And
Just for clarity, that area, is it the area by where the the diesel and the fuel come in to the?
no, that is Grandma. That's a
That's
long way
Grandma.
off. Maybe if that's where we practice at the moment.
Okay,
If
right.
that was the only field, I might have never been able because that would take me a long walk. It's
Okay,
quite down by the Fontenoy by the post office. That beach there,
okay,
prior to the post office,
to the post
that
office.
is where was our field and whatnot, you know. And we had good players there, but we didn't know anything about the rules of football and whatnot. But Jackson would have gone and played for one of the guys, one of the Jacksons, went and played for Autumns. And that led a trend of players going and play for different clubs. I went, well, I used to be going to, and I hate to say that now, um, what we call Palmer School, St. George's RC Boys School. I'm saying something now, the worst school in the world. There is no school worse than that. I'm going to explain that later. So I went to that school, and that from primary school football was a big thing in those days, very very big thing. And Los Howard would have seen me playing, and Dick and Los, like they used to play for Green Street. They would have seen me playing at primary school level, 15, 16, and they drew me into Green Street Club. Green Street Club was the biggest club in Grenada at that time. And by the time I was 16, 17, I was playing top Premier Division football, or what we used to call First Division at that time, for Green Street, you know. But the point in me By 1969, I decided to form a club from a village, and that's how Fontenoy came about. Fontenoy was formed on the April the 3rd, 1969, on a Good Friday. It was a very good Friday, and we are still alive and kicking.
Wow, you said April 3rd, 1969?
1969, Fontenoy United, across
Oh,
the 50th,
so you
and still
actually
going good.
51, Fontenoy is 51 and
Yeah,
kicking.
51,
Yeah,
and going still.
and
Yeah.
going still. Well, yeah, and but during that time, so folks, what was the rivalry like? Was what I mean? Yes, Fontenoy, but who are the other teams? Atoms, Dauntless. I mean, who are the other teams that?
It was a period when you had Autumns, Dauntless, Hurricanes, and St. John Sports. Those were the big teams. You would have had Sporting Club and other teams like that. Honveds. Honveds was also a good team in those days. It didn't transform then to what we have now. If you look at what we have now, we have community-based clubs. St. John Sports, Limbex used to be in St. Patrick's, but what it thinned out into is community clubs like Queen's Park Rangers is River Road, Point is Fontenoy, Carnage came out. So teams start coming out with a village name. You have an identity now of the village. In 1969, in the 60s, early 70s, it was not like that. You had the clubs like Autumns and Dauntless who would look at talent from wherever you are, wherever you were from, and select people according to that. But it has changed, and I believe it has changed for the better.
Well, it appears that you are a good recruiter because I'm seeing here that they asking when did you recruit Yankee Man and the gliding wingman Whitaker. Remember Whitaker?
Yeah.
You are very. It seems that you are very astute in recruiting players for Fontenoy.
We concentrated a lot on younger players, and what younger players like Depredine would have seen is that his peer go and play for Point and become a better player in a very short time. That is around that time. That was it. Later on, what was happening is that Fontenoy United, I would have made a tour to the United States, visit universities, check on coaches, and then we started getting scholarship for players. So then now, that attracted more people with that kind of ambition to come to Fontenoy. Fontenoy is the earliest club that was getting scholarship for players, and quite a few people benefited from that. So we were attracting good young players at that time.
Okay, and yeah, but getting back to that aspect of I know the Hurricane and the Queens Park Rangers and all these other teams. Where was Fontenoy United standing among the top teams, football playing teams during that period, that early
Okay,
period?
that early period, Fontenoy started in 1969. What we had then was a third division, a second division, and a first division. So what you call Premier Division now, it was then first division. We started in 1969, and we got promotion from the third to the second division, 1970. We won the competition in 1970, and we got promotion to the next division, which is the top division. And in the top division, we have won every trophy there is, and numerous times we would have won that. Like, for instance, the knockout. People used to say that Fontenoy is a specialist for the knockout because we had some good goalkeepers like the Simo and the Ants. And you just imagine, Ants was way up from St. Patrick's, but he left and come and play for Point. Because, when the guys met other friends in school and hearing about this and what we are doing, you know, Ants was from River Sally, but he playing for Point at age 17. So from there, we would have won, let's say, the knockout. We have won the knockout about 7 times. We won the Mackerson. The Mackerson was a big competition. Because the Moccasin, the winning team used to tour. We would have represented, Fontenoy would have represented Grenada in Barbados in a Moccasin. We have won the Moccasin 4 times, you know. So these are the kind of competition that we used to be winning. And I would say one of the key in it, we had young players at the time, very young players.
There was always this thing that Mr. Folks used to go and watch his opponents play football, something that I don't think many people understood at the time. And they used to accuse you of, as the local term will say, Mako in their football, you know. But you had this thing where you know you have to play Hurricane next, and Hurricane is probably playing Rangers. Why wouldn't you go and look at their style of football? What was the thinking then? Because it seems that you brought that sort of, I mean, and even into the national when you were coach, for example. I know you, you know, traveling.
I traveled to other islands
Yeah,
to look,
traveling to
to
other
look at
islands and look at the games and things. So when you started that in Grenada, what was the idea at the time?
I tell you, having an architectural background, we are design and draw houses and do this. I did the same with the formation of a team. So I go look at the opponent, look at their strengths, and look at their weaknesses. I will try to, or always try to nullify their strengths and exploit their weaknesses. And I only could do that if I had seen them play competitively before. And up to now, I still do it. When Fontenoy is playing somebody, if it's a top match, I'm almost at a loss if I didn't see an opponent. Because it will take you up to half time in that game. You lose the game already. It will take you up to half time to make an analysis of what the opponent is doing. And when you try to inform your players of it, the players are tired at halftime, they whatnot. Some would be able to take it in, some would not. But when you go in advance, when I went in advance and look at a team, I will drill that player into what I want. If there is a striker I believe is really a very good striker, then I'll play with a sweeper. A sweeper means have him mark him and have somebody free behind. So if he beats his marker, he has another man to meet, right? So those were you would believe there are top coaches. For instance, the team that get promotion from the first division in England this year, last month, is Leeds. Their name Leeds United. And Leeds United has an Argentine coach. And he just a few months ago, he was charged for spying on the opponent. And he's one of the better coaches in the world. He was charged by the FA for spying on the opponent. It makes your work much easier if you see the opponent play. And he didn't spy on the opponent by watching it on TV. You know. He go look at the opponent, practice, and play. And it's not permissible in England to go look at opposing team train. Well, I used to look at them train, I used to look at them play, and half my work was finished.
Well, you introduced this direct attack in local football, especially with Fontenoy. What was the thinking behind it at the time? Is it because that you believe you had some of your strikers were speedy, so you had this direct attack?
Football, all sports, I will say, and almost everything you do is linked with common sense. Everything you do, there is a reason you're doing it, and there is a reason why it is happening. Listen to the logic, the simple logic of football, why I always would have a direct approach. I'll play the ball, but sometimes you hit it direct. Football playing 11 against 11 with 10 men outside. So let's leave out the goalkeeper. When team A has the ball, football is as such that they have to open up. The wingers have to go wide, and they have to open up for not to get passes to each other and go forward. Listen to this. In going forward, They are wide and they are up. Once my player wins the ball, he has to attack them immediately while they are disorganized defensively. Because to defend, you have to close in and get behind the ball. Think about it. You have to close in and get behind the ball. When you are attacking, you have to open up,
Yeah.
go wide, and sometimes get ahead of the ball. So the teams, I've seen teams do it. I will always back Arsenal, and sometimes they always do it, and I see them fellas didn't understand football. When you win the ball, if you pass it back, you're literally telling your opponent, you all are out of position. Go back and defend well. Go back and organize yourself. Go back and organize yourself to defend. What I do, when I win it, I send it forward. You don't necessarily have to be long, but I will always have a striker. I'll always have somebody to run onto the ball. So that's the nice thing about football. You are disorganized defensively when you lost the ball. Any team that loses the ball, especially in the opponent's half, they are disorganized at that point in time to stall a good attack. And this is the reason I hit the direct. The last time I go and coach a national team there, and I find it the national team, coaching it is quite easy, right? When I say that, you're getting the best players, right? It's quite easy. We would have won the UEFA tournament that Grenada didn't win for a while with a game to spare. We'd have gone down to Trinidad. Trinidad did beat America and they couldn't get into the World Cup of the year or two before. So Trinidad thought they were good. Trinidad came up and they're lucky to go back with a draw. And I told the president, Cheney, I said, look, you better bet it. Trinidad going to ask you or invite you for a game down, because they cannot explain to the people and the FA that they come up after beating America, they come up and they draw with Grenada. I say expect them to send our invitation, and so done. They sent our invitation, and they were very lucky to come out with a draw because we were leading them. And I thought I had Nixon there with me. And I thought we made a mistake. Sometimes you have to look back at it. We went with a number of players, and we were leading in the 80th minute. And I literally discussed with Nixon. I said, let me give everybody a piece. It wasn't a competitive match, but in retrospect, it has a lot on the table. We should have beaten Trinidad in Trinidad. And we made a few changes. Wow, and so said, the new players just didn't fit. And Trinidad came back and draw the game. Nice. Because what we are doing, Trinidad, they like to, Trinidad like to show off generally. Once we win the ball from them, you play direct as much as possible. And I still think Grenada is good enough. Nice. Grenada always have, in our DNA, we have something that is control aggression. That's what we had a revolution. We have control aggression. When we nice and easy, we'll take so much, but then we could hit you back and hit you hard. And this is how Grenada football is not the nicey play back, play square, play that. It's aggressive. We are very, very, very aggressive. We want to get possession of the ball, but we are very aggressive.
Well, and and we may be going back and forth in terms of that as when you were playing.
No, it's not back and forth. It's getting into it.
Yeah, I'm saying while you were playing, while you were coaching, whatever it is, because
feel free.
Clev is asking that question. Always wanted to ask Ashley if he and Ashley George had any assistance in perfecting their corner kicks, which back then equivalent to a penalty kick. And I read that there and I recall Mr. Folks when, especially playing for Fontenoy, and there will be a corner kick, and then you'll make a substitution and come on and kick that corner and score. So I think when Cleve asked that, it refreshed my mind at Old Queen's Park, remembering Ram Folks as the coach and seeing an opportunity and making that substitution, coming on, corner kick and a goal. What was it about this corner kick?
Well, Ashley George and I, my good friend, my good partner, good partner. We played on the national team together, whatnot. But we have never worked it out together. I'll tell you, the corner kick, and like all things, it don't just come just so. Because I coached point from when I was a child, because we started the club and the coach happened to be me and the captain happened to be me and whatnot. So when it came to training in Fontenoy, I missed out a lot. I had to be training the guys how I want them to play. But who was training Ram? So therefore, the short time, I used to be training morning, evening, noon, and night. So on mornings, I will get my little friend named Simo, afternoon, sometime after training. I put him in the goal, and we used to have a lot of ball, 15 balls, 20 balls, whatever. And you better believe, repeatedly, I was selling these 20 balls from the corner spot. So I walked on it, I walked on it, I walked on it, I walked on it. One time now for match, all what I did, I have someone at the near post. Without obstructing the goalkeeper, I have somebody standing in the path of the goalkeeper, a foot, 2 feet away. And that would have been a taller person. Not necessarily taller than the goalkeeper, but a tall person. And I am hitting, the place is crowded. I'm putting a lot of in swing on that corner. The goalkeeper, the first thing he has to do is to either go in the goal or come out the goal to get around the guy. With the ball swerving as vicious as I used to do it, I would have scored more corners than penalties in my career. More corners than penalties. It came just like a penalty. So we could score corner on everybody. At national level, I score it all over. But there was a lot of work behind it. And I would like young players to understand whatever you want to do. The free kick, don't believe that free kick that you see Messi is doing, he just come out evening and just do it. No. He puts in a lot to do it. And that's what I used to do with the corners. People used to bet, the Fontenoy men especially, the gamblers, Ram folks at a corner from the left-hand side, which means I'm going to be kicking it with my right foot. And a lot of bets used to be wagering that he's going to score it. You just imagine that. And they win more times than not. Yeah. But I used to practice it a lot.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's very, very interesting. But how would you measure the progress of football in Grenada from the success of the Shell Caribbean Cup back in '89, the inaugural? Well, when I say the success, I mean almost winning it. Back in '89, runners up to be exact. To even the Gold Cup, qualifying for Gold Cup in 2009 and 2011. How would you rate that success of Grenada football?
Grenada football, like Caribbean football, have regressed. It hasn't improved qualitatively. You know why it hasn't improved qualitatively? Nothing to do with who's the coach or who's the president or who running the clubs. It has so much to do with the internet. It has so much to do with the availability of computers. And I'll explain. In the 1960s and early 70s, the average young man, primary school, secondary school, from school, all what he had to do was sports. All what he had to do, he lived in the village of Fontenoy, come and play. When the internet came in, they had another option. I have a grandson. He don't know how to kick a ball, but you know every game on the internet. So that one child a loss. And this is what really would have happened. In the 60s, early 70s, whether you would have named Elliot Maguire, Ashley George, or whatever, you would have been doing extra work on your own. I remember I would come down and run up Cemetery Hill, and after Cemetery Hill, I'd go up Darbo. Nice, Alexis Road, we used to call it. By that time, the light is not there as yet, and I will pass somebody coming down Darbo that I don't know who the person is because, the light is not there. And then there's another national player, another player who training. So we used to do extra training, a lot of extra training on our own. I would have trained.
And all those things were before things like gyms and all those things, right?
Well, Butty James he played for Autumns, good human being, and he would have advised me, Ram, I was small, still small, maybe. He would have advised me if I need some strength, come to the gym.
Okay.
And the best thing would have happened. The best thing would have happened to go to the gym. It helped my corner. Nice. It helped my corner with the amount of spin, the velocity was going with. And it helped almost everything in my game. My legs become bigger, whatnot. So, that aspect of it, players used to train a lot more than they are doing now. That's what I'm saying. Forget who is the president, forget who is the coach. The football standard in the 70s was much, much higher than it is now because more work was put into the game by the players. The Ashley George and the Tank and the Diane Marquez and the Ram Folks and the Alistair Telesford and blah, blah. I could call a number of names. And before us was a Dick and Los Howard and them fellas and like that.
Well, I'm glad you started calling these names because at some point I wanted us to get in, and seeing as you touched on that there, some of those names like the Tank and the guys from Victoria and
Ashley George, the rest of it.
Right.
Hotel, the rest of it.
And so who are some of these guys that we should remember in terms of this conversation, your era, that would have played? And I think they would have excelled because at that time we didn't have Shell Caribbean Cup and CONCACAF tournaments and things. We had the UEFA, as a major tournament itself, and then the other regional tournaments, the Hoffman Cup and these sort of things.
Well, all right. If we go to in the 60s, late 60s, 69, 70, and going up early 70s there, you would have had players. Let's go to Guav. Nice. You would have had Diane Marquez. He was in a class by himself. I remember in Grenada 1970 tournament, he was player of the tournament. He was just cool and very intelligent player. Right? I remember telling Diane, "Oh boy, you're a real good boy." That was 69 or whenever. But the next tournament in Dominica, I tell him I'm going for him. And I was the most outstanding player. And then we used to compete, different players. You had Tank. Tank was really a tank at the back. And he understood football from Hurricane. Ashley George on the left wing. He was a fixture on the left wing. When you're picking a national team, it has had to be Ashley George. Now, this one they call Elliot Maguire, Dr. Maguire. He did not play much club football in Grenada. But when he came on vacation or he coined a national team, he was magic. He's the only player up to now I have seen doing this trick, stepping over the ball. And I'm not talking about he's stepping over it and looking down, No. He stepped over that ball and the ball will come from behind his back, over his head. He's not turning back and the ball drops in his stride. In those days, we were happy if we got a regiment to play against or split fire, them Trinidad teams. We would have been very, very happy to get those. So from time to time, we'll get a Trinidad club team coming and play our national team. And there was this guy named Spooner. He was a renowned name in Trinidad. He was in the army, tall, strapping man. And we playing regiment up at the top ground. And Spooner came out on the left side. I'll never forget it. Came out on the left side from the left back, covering the left back. And Elliot going down on the right side. And Elliot hit him that. The man stand up as though it's a knock again in the head, You never see it. And let me tell you something. I train on the national team with Elliot. I do that. I've never seen him practice it. Never seen him practice it. But whenever he tried to execute it, perfection.
Yeah.
So we had those kind of players. Elliot was very, very, very skillful. Very skillful. He didn't have a lot of time with us because of his studies and whatnot, but he was one of the skillful ones.
Okay. I think you need to put on your headpiece. So because the mic is with the head.
Yeah.
But I should have warned you, Mr. Folks, too, that during this discussion, there will be some humor, and I'm seeing one there. Your good friend Toro Depredine, as usual, he's saying, as a young fella, saw you playing for Grenada, and when he entered GFA Carnage United, Ram was one of the guys you could always count on for good advice and encouragement. But the one thing I always tell him about is when we said we bring in Yankee Man back home to Carnage. It's the first time we ever heard about transfer fee in Grenada. He said, Fortino said we have to pay to get Yankee Man, and Papa Plug said we have to pay to get Sack. Move from Honved to Carnage. I warn you about this humor here.
Well, let me answer him again. Yankee Man was a pillar in our team. Carnage forming. I was not a pillar at the time in Green Street. So it was somewhat easy for me to leave Green Street and go to Fontenoy. But Yankee Man, my friend, my comrade, my everything, he was a pillar in Fontenoy. And Carnage starting. And I needed my Yankee Man. But at the same time, because of our development, and as much as I want to see Yankee Man develop, I tried to make it a little difficult for them. But in the end, it worked, and I laughed, and we had a good laugh. And, I've always been good and close to Carnage.
Right. Well, how much did Uta influence your education in football, Coach Uta?
Coach Uta came in Grenada football at a time when Grenada was, quote unquote, confined to Windward Island football.
And that would have been in the 70s, right?
Early 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah, late 60s, early 70s. Nice. Coach Uta brought in some methods, especially with training, dieting, and the rest of it, that we knew nothing, absolutely nothing about. Absolutely nothing. Because our football was what we used to call kick and run, more or less. But we were strong. And we were good at the Windward Island level. But I remember we would have played practice matches against Spitfire from Trinidad or this one. And these teams used to get the better of us, even though we were good at Windward Island level. So Coach Uta came in a time where I learned a lot from him. But the standard of football at that time didn't reach to beating Trinidad yet. Forget that. We still getting beaten by a Trinidad club, But that, in my opinion, was a stepping stone to where we eventually reached and where we are at the moment. What Coach Uta he brought fair play. I learned a lot from Coach Uta in relation to management of people. He was extremely fair, and that was a different story altogether.
During the period of the revolution, the PRA football team, very competitive. Was it a situation where you were able to mold players from the army, or you were able to recruit players outside and bring them into the army?
Well, during the PRA, you see like all them big clubs buy this one and buy that one and buy that one. In getting my team together, we were in the army, and we needed fun. Yes, I have me AK on my back and my macarop in my waist and a bad. You understand? But there has to be a time when you have to relax. And what happened at the time, it was in March, right? Revolution in March. The young men who came to serve the revolution, they would have missed that season for whichever clubs they were playing. And I let it be known to the hierarchy and the whatnot that we must have a team, or else you can lose soldiers. So the guys sacrificed that first year. So the first thing I start doing is to pulling men together and inviting even some of those that were outside and on the fringe. And it meant from the second year, we started the football, and we won almost everything, because you would have had top players, the Carlson Frank and them guys like that, top players coming from clubs who chose to pick up arms against what was a then dictator. And it was very easy for me, I must say. It was very easy for me to get that gathering. Fontenoy didn't have that. That gathering of stars ready made. And I could even coax somebody on the outside. I really need you, boy. I need a left winger. Come on, man. You could join the army. You're getting paid. Blah, 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 blah. And, and I was in charge. I was a lieutenant, and I'm proud to say it, a lieutenant in the People's Revolutionary Army. I was in charge of a unit, totally in charge of a squad. That would have been for the escorts to the VIP, the ministers and whatnot. And
That's
it was not
that was
yeah,
personal security, right?
personal security. It
Yeah.
was not that everyday hard work. A lot of people wanted to be there because a nice boy work, as they will call it. You follow? So the footballers I was then getting in, I bring them into that unit. And it was a very casual work in the sense you had to be serious when you go out with the PM or you go out with a minister. But other than that, it's very easy. And almost most of my team came from that area.
Yeah, I recall Bridgman from River Road was also and think Pele. I mean, I could just go on naming
It's
some.
a lot.
And then after the revolution, they went into what you call different clubs, teams in the country, right?
Well, yes. There are a few that I got to Fontenoy.
I was about to say, I'm certain that Fontenoy would have.
Yeah, Fontenoy benefited quite a bit from it. I must confess that I advised the guys to go back home because I wanted them to integrate back to their community and back to their society. They were out in the PRA for the longest while, and like Carlson Frank, okay, he had that leadership in the Gove area. Now, if I took Carlson Frank or I begged Carlson Frank to come and play for Point, he would have been still alienated from Gove. And I wanted people to go back to their community because I didn't want players to look as though, based on the tragedy that we had, as though they're hiding from their own people. You had to go back and blend back into the community. Because I went back into my community with my shoulders real high, still high, real high. I had nothing to regret about. I give it my best shot. And the Grenada that I know, I'll always give it them kind of shot. Whatever I feel is best for Grenada, I go stand up. You follow? So to answer the question directly, a lot of the fellas went back to the club and fit in back to the club and back to the community, and it was good.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you mentioned something there because it links to something about you, and we'll talk about it later on when we go into regional and international football and the administration aspect of it. But that principle of you, the sort of integrity, and I'm glad you made mention of going back into the community after the revolution and standing tall, because I always recall you saying that just around the period of the 83 turmoil, when your name was called and you had to call the radio station and tell them, please, I know nothing about that. Please take off my name from that. I bring that into the conversation because I want people to know the sort of person Ram Folks was and still is in terms of sticking his ground, being a man of principle. Why you did something like that, Ram, at that period of time when, I mean, things were in chaos and your name was called in the RMC and you called and said, hey, no, I know nothing about that. Take my name. Don't call my name.
Bascom, let me tell you, I want to live. I want to continue living a happy life. I pray for that every day, everything. But I'm afraid of death. If I have to die for a cause, trust me. If I have to stand up with you, if you and I go any way and the thing in Bascom, I don't think I could leave you and run. It's just who I am. Now, during that turmoil, I would have spoken to Bernard Code on a number of occasions. I would have spoken to Morris because I was a chief personnel officer. I was in charge of all the escorts for Morris, Bernard, Louison, for all the ministers. Nice? And as a result, I was very, very close to Morris. Very, very close. I was Morris' barber. As you know, Morris had a beard. Who else Morris let go under his neck other than Ram Folks? Nobody. No barber in Grenada could have reached close to Morris' head, most of like neck. So I used to be having razor, go under his neck, do that. He just believed in me and he trusted in me. Bernard Code, same thing. I had that kind of straight on. If I find something wasn't right, I'll check them that this is not right and that is not right. But with the collapse of the revolution, and I call it the collapse of the revolution, I always had prior to in the turmoil days, I took a principled stand that I went to Morris and I told him we had to settle this thing, otherwise we'll lose the thing, and the thing mean the revolution. I say if we don't settle that, we're going to lose the thing. I go to Bernard, and it's nice to have a program on exactly on that. You know what Bernard told me? Bernard say, watch, Ram, I'm going to pack up and go. And I'm going to leave this thing to save the revolution. I said, Chief, no, we could reconcile this situation. We could reconcile the situation. I went to Morris, I got a different story. So all along, what I was doing was trying to see, because at the end of the day, I was the one bridging. I was in charge of Morris security and I was in charge of Bernard security. And there was once I went to Morris, and that bothered me, and I could say it now. I went to Morris in relation to a communication problem. We had a communication problem. The 2 yards shaped like a Y. All right? You come up the base of the Y, and you go left, you meet Morris house. You go right, you meet Bernard and them house. But we had security at all 3 points, which didn't make any sense. So, and then we had shortage of men. I went to Morris and I said, Chief, we have shortage of men. A lot of men going away and study because during that time, we had no other time in the history of Grenada that so many people got university education for free. So some of them guys who in the PRA, they gone, and we always had shortage of men. And when I went to Morris, we are using shifts of 2. So 2, 4, 6 by 3, 18 men. Whereas I know we could use 12 men. Thereabout. Very easy. And then he told me, Ram, I like my security right where it is. Wow, that shocked me. It's the first time I asked myself, Ram, what are you doing here, boy? Because, genuinely, I went in relation to the aspect of making the thing work. I never tell anyone about it. I talk about my camp or whatever. I know I got frightened. I got frightened on it, and that wasn't long before the collapse. So I then saw it seems as though these men have a good relationship, And this is the kind of situation that I found myself in. So to answer your question directly, after the tragedy, they call the names on the radio. I remember there was a state of emergency, and I was in the camp. Like I in charge of the camp. I had to be staying in the camp. By that time, we moved to consolidate one camp. And being a senior member, I made them. So after about 3 days after the tragedy, after the death of Morris, the execution of Morris, I'm going home now. And I had a PRA vehicle. I gave a lady a drop. And she said, Ram, what you get yourself involved in it? That I don't know the details of anything yet. And she said, Ram, why you get yourself involved in this? I said, what do you mean what I get myself involved in? I said, I'm a PRA. I said, yes, I'm a PRA. So what? She said, but not just being a PRA. I talk about killing Morris. I said, me? I said, you crazy or what? I said, no. I said, them details, I don't have it. When I reach home, my wife, Pauline, when she see me, she start crying. She said, Ashley, what happened? How you get involved in that? I said, involved in what? I said, I don't know the details, and I'm not taking any side because I don't know the details. And then at that time, the radio was on. And when the radio, it announced, so and so, so and so, so and so. These are the members of the ruling military council. So I listened. She said, listen. And I hear Ashley Ram folks. I say, Pauline, I do not know anything about that. And they have to take it off. I say, whoever put it had to take it off. Now, at that time, it's life and death, people shooting here, people shooting there. And the whole family got together and started crying and whatnot. And there and then, without writing it, I literally make a will. I literally tell them, I'm going down to them, right? I'm going down to whoever put my name there. I tell them, I'll take care of the children, so and so is the situation, and I go in and there to take it out. I went to Bernard. He's a man I really respect. I said, Bernard, I do not know anything about that. Nobody explained to me or invited me or told me about that. I'm hearing my name as a member of the ruling military council, and I do not want my name on that. It is total disrespect to put me on that. I say, I want it off. But I take a long pause. He say, but you know you're a special human being. I say, Bernard, special or no special, I want my name off. No, I'm not saying it's Bernard who put the names together. But I'll tell you, Basco. One of them told me, one of the senior officers told me, Ram, what we are looking for is people who have respect or who the troops respect. So we're going to put these people at the helm because other players would, other officers would not defect. I said, but if you had to put my name at the top, then I need to know about it. I say, too late now. I want it off, and you're not taking it off just so. It has to go on the air. I said, the same way Radio Grenada broadcast it, I want Radio Grenada to say, Ashley Ram folks don't know nothing about it. And that's why I up to now, I'm saying the PRA was not barbaric as it. But I tell me, okay, Ram, I will double check the guys and we go see so and so, so and so. Within about 2 hours, Radio Grenada come with the bulletin. Ashley Ram folks mistakenly put on the thing he's not a member of the RMC. Tom Jones is a member of the RMC. Tom Jones spent 23 years in jail. And, you know, when I stand up for something that I think is right, somebody had to prove to me that is wrong. Because I'm not afraid, quote, I hate to say, they know if I did. But that is the situation. I told them to take it off and don't just tell me to take it off, you know. I said, too many people outside there that I am responsible for, that I basically is an example to so many young people. They don't understand that. Take my name off. The name was taken off. Yeah. But I still remain in the army. I still fought the war. You understand? But if they didn't take it off, well, I don't know. I would not have been going back into the army. They had to kill me or I killed somebody or something. But they took it off. I give them a lot of credit. Whoever is the day. They took it off on the next news bulletin. You know?
Mm-hmm. Well, and with that retraction and your stance and whatever, don't you think that sort of respect too was what would have toughened your stance even when it came down to football administration in the latter years and we going about the GFA, the CFU, the FIFA?
Well, it's the same Ram. I haven't changed. There are certain things I believe is fair, right? I like to use things that are fair. I'm not going to say, but Ram, you supporting this? Or Ram, you supporting he? And my support to anything, is it fair? Is it fair to most people? Is it for the betterment of people? You follow? And like for instance, once somebody asked me, but Ram, how you support the revolution? I say, I support the revolution because what was going on in Grenada at the time was just not fair. You remember I said that St. George's RC Royal School is the worst school in the world? I'm going to put the explanation to it. I went to St. George's Archie Boys School from the time I was maybe 7, 8, And Bascom, for whatever reason, I'm missing tests and coming first in class. I tell you, I'm missing tests because I had three siblings, and my mother was a very poor woman with 11 children. And we went to school by turns. So every week I must miss a day with my three younger sisters. You follow? Every week I missing a day. When it's tests, I can't tell mama he had tests. No, I have to stay home. And I remember in standard 3, there was a lady named Miss Keppels. Miss Keppels had a son named Bernard Keppels in the class. And I missed this, and I come in first in standard 3. From standard 3, I got to skip to standard 5. When I reached standard 5, I meet an Indian guy there. He didn't come to Palmer School. But the first test, he had a man named Toots Sylvester. You say chum bad? He's worse. He wasn't chum still. This man named Toots Sylvester. Toots Sylvester was given Colbert Nayak private classes. So Colbert Nayak beat me in one of them tests. And I wonder, what happened? I mean, I ain't come first. You see, Colbert Nayak come first. So it went like that, with Colbert Nayak coming first, Ram coming second. At that time, Ram playing for the school team, Ram in study, no homework, in opening no book. That's how I am. That's how I go to school. But I still coming in the first two. That's the first time I come so low, second. When time for scholarship, they sent 15 people for scholarship. This man named Toots Sylvester, because I came from a poor home, he refused to send me for scholarship. So with all due respect to Peter Radix, Dr. Peter Radix and them, I used to miss class and beat them. I didn't used to spend much time on the book, and I've beaten all of them. All of them, I tell you. But yet still, these people, and let me tell you one thing about Palmer School, why I call it worst. I've always been short. I haven't grown to 5 feet 7 yet. I still remain 5 feet 6. And in Palmer School, between standard 2 or standard 1 down there, standard 5, I never sat in the front row. The front row was reserved for the Hughes, the Steele, the McNeely, the Monroes, and the Monroe the taller. So I had to be watching around. I had to be watching around the back to see the board. And it culminated at standard 5, where I didn't go. I'm the brightest in school, in the class. And they refused to send me for scholarship where I could have gone secondary school. So you know what happened then? I leave school and I go on and fish. Yeah. I build a raft and I go on a fishing boat, a fish. And I'm making at $2 and whatnot. That time this boy going university and going this and going that. No, that is what I pick up the gun for. You have to understand it. That is why I must have pick up the guns. And listen what I pick up the guns for. I lived to see that during that 4.5 years of the revolution, more poor people, children attended universities and higher school of learning than any time in the history of Grenada. You follow? That is why I pick up the gun. What they had denied me, I've seen people who didn't even go secondary school, went on to Cuba and do this and come back with this and come back with that. And I feel so good about them. But that is the reason why I call Palmer School the worst school in the world. And let me just give you one part to end the day. I have a sister, beautiful sister, who lives in Lansopine. She was like my mother at home. You know, I have 11 children. We cannot split up. This person taking care of the one, that person taking care of the one. She was very religious and went to the Catholic Church every Sunday. But because she was like the mother in the house, she had to come back and do breakfast and things on a Sunday. So she lived in Fontenoy, which is close to our walk for me, a little boy, and going to church at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning. And I had a sister 2 years younger than me. I had a brother 2 years older than me. She never took them. I still does ask her, my loving sister, I still does ask her, why is me you had to take? So she take me out of sleep, and I went to church with her. And in the church, between sleep and wake, I used to hear some good things, some good story about Jesus Christ and this and that, and everybody equal. I get in that on a Sunday, and when I go on a Monday in a Catholic school, I see just the opposite. And I start having that kind of understanding of it. So when I pick up the guns and saw so many children or poor people graduating to be doctors and the rest of it, I felt, well, look, not that my job is finished, but a lot of it has been done. A lot of it has been done. That is what I went through in school. But it caused me to, back to the football, it caused me to a great extent to reach out, to leave Fontenoy, to leave Grenada, and go Texas, go here, go there, searching for schools for poor people children to get scholarships and go to a higher level of learning. And I think we have done quite a bit. I've done quite well. I didn't get it, but I make sure and ensure that some people got it.
Well, I want to thank you for that, because even at your disadvantage, you were able to do something, well, through football, through sports, and through the community involvement, where you brought so many of these youngsters to do the SAT, I think at the time you did, and they were able to go on and full scholarships to some extent, and degrees, first degree, master's degree. I can recall Tin Man, for example, and I can go on and name so many others who playing football for Fontenoy and coming from the village of Fontenoy were basically recipients of that initiative you started in the village. Let's talk about scholarship program.
Yes, the scholarship program, again, it stemmed from what I just spoke about there in relation to the scholarship program. And I left, I had contact with Roland Glean, Dr. Glean, my good friend, and I went to other schools, went to Texas, went here, went there. And because I did not get it, I tried to make sure that poor people children got it. It was not just fellas from Point. I would have gone River Sally and meet this person and that person. For instance, Merriman, tall Merriman, he never played for Point. One from Grenada, Gavin something, he never played for Point. But because Keith one of them knew them, and this person has that, and this person, there was a lady also sent, you follow? As long as they would have had 5 O levels. But I'll tell you that there are some that didn't have the O levels, and I felt based on their family background, they need help. So I got Desiree Stevens and Kitwana and others to do the SAT program. So here we were, we go on train on evenings and whatnot. And there are certain players there, when you don't train, your classes, your classes SAT. So we prepared them to pass the SAT. In other words, when you would have had 5 or 6 O levels, that was enough to get you into a school. If you didn't have it, you had to pass the SAT, which is the prerequisite in the United States for entering college. And the SAT is much easier. You just have to understand it. So there's Stephen. She used to be teaching the SAT, and Kitwana and them teaching the SAT. And you're surprised to know the number of people that did not have O levels that eventually came out with degrees, and they were not from Point. We used to shop around to see where we're getting them from, where we were getting these people from, irrespective of which club you were at. As long as you would have had the interest, we took you in. But you come and you train, especially if it goes at Point, you train and you don't train. We have classes, man, so and so, so and so, so and so. Yeah. And I think we made so many people, give them that opportunity. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, to add to what, Desiree is now a permanent secretary in the Ministry of Youth and Sports.
Well, that talks for itself. She has
excelled,
always been. Is my daughter.
Right, and she excelled in netball in particular. Yeah. Played national netball. Okay, so also before the discussion end, like you to say something about Tony Grizzly. May his soul rest in peace, and his contributions to youngsters in the diaspora. Ram, you will know Tony Grizzly.
Oh, good God, Tony, what a good human being. What a good human being. A lot of good human being, like Tony and David Lambert. They die young, they died early, but I respect God. He knows best. Tony was extremely instrumental in identifying school. He was my contact. Though he lived in Brooklyn, but he contacted, well, I made a trip or two to schools in different areas. But Tony Grizzly and Roland Glean are the two contact people that would discuss terms and different things with the coaches in the respective schools. Right? The other side of it, a lot of times people come to get a scholarship, and if they are not careful, they'll use them like a racehorse just to play alone, and they don't get the academic that I really sending them for. So we used to try to make sure that these things happen, get in contact with the coaches, because not all coaches are oriented towards sports and education. They want to win. So if the guy is studying schoolwork and blah blah blah, even though some of the schools had the strict prerequisite that you must get so much and so much grade to continue on your scholarships, right? But this was a situation where out of the blues you're getting university scholarship, quote unquote, for free, just for the talent you had. So Tony Grizzly, he was one of my. Now he and Tony have told you that family to me, and they have been extremely close to me, real close. I don't know, but that's what life is.
Okay, may soul rest in peace. And getting in now to your involvement in administration of football. Even before we get directly to that, were you a part of the Grenada delegation that initially recommended, or nominated, I should say, that's the word, Mr. Jack Warner to the CFU position?
I can't remember. I Grenada
something. Made the
Grenada did, and at that time, I'm not too sure if I was president or what role I played. But I could say Jack Warner is one of the most vindictive people you have on earth, and Jack Warner is one of the most caring people you have on earth. It's like a two-sided dragon. You follow? I admire Jack Warner when I was president of the football. I thought Jack Warner was very intelligent, a very intelligent man. I've seen Jack Warner in meetings. Well, for me, I'm not immortal like that. I take notes, huh? I take notes and whatnot. Jack Warner will sit down there and just loll back. And when you hear a speaker finish, he will grill him with questions here, there, right, and everywhere. This man is really intelligent. Nobody can tell me otherwise. I've seen it. He came up a time in Grenada in some meeting and the same thing. And this is a part I always admire about him. And then in the 70s, Ram was Black Power. Nice. Ram was Black Power in the 70s, and I still remain Black Power. And then I was PRA, so you could understand who I am. So when I saw Jack Warner among the white folks, I was extremely proud of the representation that Black Life had. Now they say Black Life Matters. Jack Warner, trust me, Jack Warner was that intelligent black man. Now, Jack Warner might have had another side to him, corrupt or whatever they call it, because that's what the Americans say, he's corrupt. Jack Warner, the biggest problem with Jack Warner, he wanted no opposition. And it's not, I never opposed Jack Warner. I oppose something that is not right. And I don't care who would have bring it to the table. I thought it wasn't right. Where I fell out with Jack Warner, because just to give you it right, my termination of my presidency, nobody could have beaten me in votes in Grenada presidential election. You trust me. Nobody. Ask any other club members. So Jack Warner, we were in a conference somewhere up the islands.
I think it was Martinique.
Martinique. We would go, you have it. We were in Martinique. And Jack Warner, for whatever reason, had a problem with Antigua. And he wanted to throw out Antigua. Nice. And the excuse was very flimsy. So everybody talked and everybody throwing Jack on the line, and then I have my hand up. But Jack Warner knew me, so a lot of times when you hear I didn't forum and I put up my hand, everybody afraid, because Ram go say something different, maybe most likely. So I put up my hand, and Jack going around me and going around me. Eventually, he had to come to me, and I said, Jack, just so because he and I were good. I'll invite him in Grenada, he'd come, he invite me in Trinidad, I go. I said, Jack, what is the problem? We had to build a family. What is the problem? Jenkins was the guy, I think, one of them. I said, what's the problem?
Jenkins from St. Kitts?
St. Kitts. Jenkins from St. Kitts. But the one from Antigua.
So,
I said, well, Jack, what's the problem? We could solve the problem. We don't have to be in this situation, so and so, so and so. A Cuban guy come and point to order. Put up your hand. Blah, 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 blah. The interpreter say what you see. And I just watch him and I say, watch, hey, comrade, you. That position you had there, go to Fidel and them and try to see if you could get democracy in your country. What operating here is democracy. Watch, everybody get silent, I said, no, what operating here is democracy. You ain't accustomed with that. You are accustomed with when your leader say jump, you ask him how high. And now you're asking Mr. Jack Warner how high. I say, I trying to resolve this difference. Jack didn't like that. And Jack just bent now on Ram. But I always respected Jack. So Jack wrote to FIFA with some excuse of so and so, so and so. FIFA don't trust them, A bunch of whatever you call them. Still, FIFA sent some bodies saying they're coming to look at the finances and whatnot. Do a vote of no confidence. Not in the finances, no. There are nothing but the one to get rid of Jack, one to get rid of it. And I win the vote. Because there is no way I would have gone out of Grenada football unless it was unilaterally done. So the next Congress was in Argentina. Jack going to Argentina and he tell the group of crooks this and that. And could you imagine? FIFA removed me. Well, you had some, what I should call them? Let me call them that name, man. Some in Grenada, power they want, so what? But they removed me from office based on what Jack could have told them in Antigua. Rather than they could have had a committee come to find out what is this. All what would have happened, I stood up against Jack in that meeting in Martinique. And that is how I'm not in the Grenada Football Association. But before that, I challenged him. I took the matter to CAS. At that time, we were on the football field of play. You just imagine Jack getting me out of Grenada football, whereas little Grenada would have beaten some of them top teams and would have qualified for before the Gold Cup, the Caribbean Cup in Jamaica, the finals.
Yeah.
We had qualified for the finals. So when I had Nixon as the captain of the team, I didn't appoint any coach because I know I bring this team to finals already and I could do it again. So I had Nixon. I said, I want no coach to come and give me four this and four that and let me know what's going on. Nixon is like my child. Nixon is the captain. We have no coach. The honest truth, I respected my office as president. So I'm walking through Nixon. So Nixon and I walking. And the team reached the finals. And I couldn't go Jamaica because at that time, just imagine Grenada going Jamaica in the finals. And I couldn't go Jamaica in the finals because I had to take care of every little nook. I'm paying salaries out of my own expenses. The team went to Jamaica. I pay every cent for the team and the squad to go Jamaica. I paid for about 5 months, 6 months. About 3 months. I paid the staff, every member of staff. I paid them because that is what Jack tried to do. And at the meantime, I go into CAS. And CAS, I don't know, CAS at the same time prolonging it. And then the family and them start getting things. Actually, what are you fighting about? Just give them people a thing. Just why don't blah, 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 blah. I would have put out quite a few $100,000. You better believe what I tell you, because you're running the FA and you're paying salary and the team tour at your expense. You follow? And then they say, but remember, the wife sit down, Kitwana especially. He said, well, that what that is about? If it's that the one, give them. And I just rescind and I say, okay. And that's it.
But in all of that, is the GFA still owing Ram Fox?
No. With all due respect, I got back my money in little phases and whatnot, but I got it back. Yeah, one little few cents I couldn't be bothered about. But I think they're so glad to get rid of Ram that, because I brought them out of the cast. That cost me a lot of money also.
Which is the Court of Arbitration.
Arbitration. The International Court of Arbitration. I brought them out of the cast. But cast, I don't believe cast is as fair as the make-believe. This is Ram who they don't know. And it's Jack Warner and FIFA president are fighting against him. But that's who I am. I fight against the Americans. I took up guns and I fought against the Americans. So who was cast and them and them and them? I had to fight all of them, if it's so. You follow? And the family, I thought the family, really get into the family. And the family advised me to throw in the cards, And sometimes you have to listen to people. So I threw in the cards. And that's what really happened there.
But with that sort of experience, did that affected your desire to continue in terms of football administration in Grenada? Because it sounded as if FIFA was out to disband Ram folks from football.
I see, no, not a moment. I mean, for a family's sake, Ram actually stay away from this football thing. Then people in the footballing like you, so and so. But I still saw, from the community standpoint, it allows people to meet their dreams. It allows people who would not have gone secondary school like me, who have been denied that for whatever reason, whether it's their own fault, to going on and getting masters and 10 degrees. Nice. I don't know since then if there any administration have ever helped with it, but I know that is what we used to do. So it was not for Ram, because I never got a cent. I never got a cent from the football. I gave so much and I gave so much. In those days, president never used to get stipend. They never used to get allowances. They never used to get anything like that. Sometimes I have to pay for somebody. That's a reality. So in that respect, it was all about a child, somebody's child, somebody who in that family never had anybody even go secondary school, and this person now could go and get universities education. It was about people, and a lot of people fitted into that bill. Yeah.
So how do you therefore explain the ongoing, well, sorry if I say ongoing, but the lingering and disputes within GFA over all this period, even with the Ram folks out of football administration?
Okay, what I did when I got out of the football, I take a break from even going to the meetings, because there were two sides to it. The club we have, which is 50, 51 years old, we have a lot of leadership within the club. And whenever I would have gone to a meeting, I would have taken Simo with me. Sometimes I take Craig, sometimes I take that. When Kitwana was there, he used to be there. So I would have a team of people as backup, not to back me up, but to learn the trade. And if you ask me about Simo, I think he is okay. Simo Redhead, he is quite okay when it comes to that. So against that background, people like him were good enough to go to the next level. And it's on that basis that I thought the football, I have no way of getting out of it. There's no, because getting out of it, you see, a lot of people watch me, especially people from out of Fontenoy. They see me and my involvement in football nationally. Nice. I always saw myself as serving, first and foremost, the community, making life better for people in the community. I'll give you a little history of a little one I have named Jojo. This little one from Point going to secondary school in Boca. Going secondary school in Boca. And make it worse, Jojo Lyman, my daughter, you know. He going secondary school in Boca. And then one day my daughter come and tell me, Da, they just call me Da. When I was small, I couldn't talk too well, so I used to call my mother Da. Mama, my mother, my father, Mama. Yeah. She come and she tell me that Jojo leave school. I said, what? Jojo what? That time, my scholarship program in the height, you know. He then from 4, from 5, and she tell me he leave school. So I say, what, you know? Tell Jojo that I want to see him sooner rather than later. So when Jojo come, I say, Jojo, I hear you leave school. The first answer he tell me is yes, and then he trying to give me an excuse. I say, Jojo, with all due respect, hold your excuse. I say, let me talk to you. I'm giving so many people scholarships. You're right at the edge. You're going to leave school? I say, you can't do that. How could you? I say, well, let me tell you something now. I put in the cards on the table for you. I say, I see a lineman, Jamila. You say, yeah, da. I say, what a sure run. I say, let me tell you something. A sure. I didn't get the opportunity to go secondary school nor university. But I sent my children and they would go university. I said, Jamo would go university. So you go get left. I said, would Jamo go university and come back and pick up some little dropout from secondary school? I said, well, you get left long time. I said, you have to find. I said, let me tell you something. I give you an ultimatum, just so. It was a Thursday. Never forget that. It was a Thursday. I said, you have to find yourself in a school. I don't know which school, but sooner rather than later. Well, I know people will break open small shops and business places, but I never know people will break open school. The Monday, Jamo come and tell me, Jojo get a school. I say, get a school? What do you say, get a school? He say, going in, what I call him?
Yeah.
He go in shape up by Brother George. Well, we know Brother George. Brother George is a good serviceman. Eh?
Yeah.
Brother George, not that you care about education, but you want the football team.
He was a good recruiter.
That time Jojo Day national team and thing. Eh? So I call Jojo. I say, I hear you get a school. He say, Dad, let's call me Dad. He said, Dad, when I go up, I go by Brother George. Brother George tell me, come, you don't have to have no uniform, just come. Let me tell you the ending of that story. Jojo stayed in school the other year or so. Jojo get 5 or 6 O-levels. And coincidentally, Jojo and Jamila left on the same flight. Jojo going out to a football scholarship.
Yeah.
Jojo parents very poor. No way he could have attained that. Jojo and Jamila left on the same flight to go university. Jojo and Jamila are now married with 2 beautiful children. And Jojo and Jamila have master's degree and owning a respectable and living a respectable life. As a matter of fact, I'm speaking to you from Jojo and Jamila in them house right now. You understand? No, I could just look back and say, if I was not there at that point, what would have happened to that soul? What would have happened to that soul? And he was not the only one that I had to put my foot down in order to get me down. And that is what I want to do more than anything else. So don't make a mistake and let anybody tell you that Ram is out of football. I want to help people. You know, I'm still talking to coaches in the United States. I'm still talking to people of interest in the United States. And as I've told Des, I really want to get back to helping people to be a better person, you know?
Yeah, well, and you mentioned Jojo, so a lot of people will hear the name Jojo as a nickname of him playing, as he actually played national football as well, okay?
He's Joel, what they call him Jojo.
Jojo,
Yeah.
and very much. And while you were speaking there, I guess you remember showing Merriman as well, because Merriman, in fact, Merriman was saying that you used to leave Point, which is Fontenoy, travel to Stotels to coach Eagle Super Strikers on Saturdays.
I'll tell you, there was a year I coached Fontenoy, Latas,
That's the team I wanted, yeah.
yes,
Latas, yeah.
and Eagle Super Striker, and won 3 divisions. Eagle Super Striker was in the lower division. We won that year. Spaceman team, we got promotion to the higher division, and Fontenoy won the higher division. How did I coach 3 teams at that time? Fontenoy United is one where I could have coached it in the morning, and I split the days to go ESS and coach them, and go to Latas and coach them. And I remember Spaceman one day bring some envelope. You say, but Ram, we want to just say thanks. We want to give you this. I said, Space, what in the envelope? He said, I money for gas. I said, Space, me not ask you for the money for gas. Keep your thing, and if you could buy something for them fellas, buy something for them fellas. So Jester will tell you that I've never asked them for a cent. If it's anything I give players who need it, Spaceman will tell you, never, ever ask for a cent. What I thought I was doing is developing people. That is why I was able to get the Merriman to give him a better life. I'll tell you, as we talk about better life, there are good people. You see, like how I'm saying that when I put my head to something, nothing could move it as far as I think it is good. As you talk about St. Patrick's, in this scholarship program, I'm working with ESS, and we have this player named Scott. And I put him down as one of the selectees to get a scholarship. I got the scholarship for Scott. So all what you have to do now is to get ready to leave.
That's Adrian Scott?
Yeah, Adrian Scott. All what you had to do was to get. If I tell you I respect this man, this guy, Adrian Scott, but I really respect him. We got the scholarship for him. I think it might have been the same time with Merriman. And I went to him and I said, Scotty, I have a nice surprise for you, you know. I said, look, I have a scholarship to go to this college. So and so is the situation. We'll come down, you'll do the SAT, I'll come up, do whatever, so and so, so and so. But that's it. Your quality is good. You don't have to do nothing else. Just keep yourself fit, blah, blah, blah. He said, Coach, my grandmother ain't feeling too well. I said, but Scott, you had nobody else to see about your grandmother? He said, I was seeing about my grandmother. I said, Scott, I believe that if you take the scholarship, you'll be able to help Granny more than staying here. Scott watched me literally crying. He said, Coach, I can't leave Granny. I can't leave Granny. The man literally crying and tell me, he can't do it. And I just had to forego the scholarship. But I respect him for that. Scott had a scholarship, rounded everything. Just, he just signed the dotted line and say, well, right, he going. And Scott told me, he can't leave Granny. No, if it's one human being, a footballer thing that I respect, it's Scott. Because I know how much I had loved my mother. And if that was my mother, I didn't go in no way. I didn't care what. And that is, that has, this is an everlasting thing on my mind in relation to how this fellow saw his grandmother.
Mm-hmm. There is a question here from Lincoln Toro Depredine. What's Ram's impression of local and Windward's football administration? And does he have any suggestions for improvement? Over to you, Ram.
The administration, the Windward's administration has a lot to do too much with status quo. And when I say with status quo, I was always skeptical about taking somebody from the village because he is the manager of this firm, or she is a nurse or a doctor. It doesn't work. When I tell you it doesn't work, you have to take somebody who have shown that attachment to the community. And even if you have to educate that person to manage, is a better thing than taking a manager who got degree in some college, some university, but don't care about the village. And that is my biggest problem. That is my biggest problem with a lot of that I see a lot of clubs just fold. And when the club fold, who are the people you see holding it up? The same grassroots. The same grassroots. So it is one of the things where about the management of the clubs, there are good people who would have maybe doctorate or whatnot. But generally, I believe if I have to look for, let's say, Moncton, if I had to recommend anybody to Moncton, it has to be to be the president or whatever. It has to be somebody who was working in the community. It doesn't have to be the fella there who's a doctor. He might have been a doctor and he don't care much about the community. Maybe he didn't have time for the community. Would he have time now? No. The person should have the community as a priority to lifting people from the community. That is where I come from. That is who I am. And that is why I believe I will be at club level, I'll be at national level. You go anywhere in the country, especially in the St. Patrick's area, and ask about Ashley Ram folks. They'll tell you Ashley Ram folks should be going to be the president. Have any vote, have any popular vote, and see what it is. That is why Jack Warner couldn't get me out of the GFA with a popular vote. No, I would have won every election, every one, if they were fair and popular. But this is what with FIFA. That's why they always have corruption and they always have this and they always have that. Jack Warner can't go in America to go hold him for embezzlement and whatnot and whatnot. And in my opinion, he's a nice guy. But he has that thing in him.
Any grudges against any grudges you hold, especially with your local football administrators for how you were treated, especially during that period?
I'll tell you, I look at people and feel sorry for them rather than being angry with them. I do well with all of them. Nice. I haven't seen my friend Paul Roberts. We were on the national team together, and he was on the bandwagon and ram this and ram that. But Paul is my friend. Budu, we do well. Chenny, we do well. Those are the guys who were in co with Jack Warner. They follow. Maybe they're looking for power. I never, ever saw the management of football being the president as one of power. I saw it as one of opportunity to help others and to help people. Nice. If I was the president of football during that time, the amount of people that would have come out with degrees from, yeah, I tell you, I did it with the fund now. So you just imagine at the level is throughout I would have gone, go to the United States, get scholarship for people because basketball, let me tell you something, a lot of people don't remember or don't understand. The lifespan of a footballer is very short, Very when he reach 29, what happened? He gone, he start figuring out when he reach 30, forget it.
Yeah,
But when he reaches 30 with a degree,
yeah,
he's still playing and he has something to fall back on. I'll go now to Nixon Modest. Nixon Modest, real piece of talent. Always have been a very good player, very, very good player, and a good human being. Very good human being. But Nixon would have got the quote unquote contract for Jamaica. I advise him against it. I advise a number of people who got quote unquote contract for Trinidad at that time. And they're young, they couldn't understand it. I told Nixon before he went, I said, Nixon, if I take you now and bring you on a construction site and paying you as a helper, call it a laborer. In 5 years' time, you will be better off than going Jamaica. So, you know, he asked me, blah, 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 blah. He see me as a father, and I know I've given him good advice, but the involvement of the football, he have them things, you know. I say, you know why? You would get enough to keep you alive as the so-called professional. When they're looking for a player to send England, it wouldn't be you. It would be a Jamaican. And I told some of them that for Trinidad to go be a Trinidadian. They're sending their own kind. They have you playing at the local level. The money you are getting there is fun money. A starvation salary, but it's fun. You're getting fun. I say after you get that for 4, 5, 6 years, you can't buy anything. You can't build anything. You coming back now as an unskilled helper, worker, laborer. I say the person I will take as a helper now, within 5 years, he's going to become a skilled mason or skilled mechanic, and he could build a house and build this and do that for himself. Ask Nixon. I told him that. Those who went through that, I told them the same thing. Because what the bigger islands were doing, the bigger islands were taking people from the smaller islands, the talent, as stopgap measures. But then who going out? The Latapi and the Yorks. Those are the ones that were going out, not we. There was this guy, I can't remember his name, from St. Kitts, scoring the most goals in Trinidad. Over and over, every season. They sent for 2 players for Germany, so much. Who Jack and them sending? Trinidadians. So it is a novelty of wanting to go and say you're playing professional. Even though the amount of guys in Fontenoy that I tell, don't go there. Don't go there. Because you're getting nothing. Except you're wasting time. No, in retrospect, if you ask Nixon, he's like a child. If you ask Nixon, was it really a mistake? Or if you study, listen what Romney saying, so and so, so and so. But you know, you can't force people into it. Nixon now would be the best person to talk to any of these young guys who getting a scholarship to go Jamaica or Trinidad. He could tell them about his experience. Because at the end of the day, what's going to count when you reach 30 is your skill or your education. It would not be football no more. It would not be football no more. And this is one of the situations like that.
Yeah. We have a lot to discuss still, and the questions are coming.
I'm available.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Very interesting, because one of the questions came up about are you also working on scholarships for female footballers? Because I also, apart from that, I also want you to give your views on the whole development and the focus on women's football, not just in Grenada, but women's football in particular.
Well, at this point in time, it seems easier to get a scholarship for women. Right? I've spoken to Desiree on it. My main focus when I come back going to be helping quote unquote poor people children. That is how I just call it. Poor people children in the football. And I would work closely to President Cheney in relation to getting scholarship for people. And I, you know, we vote and we discuss on different matters here and there. I don't have a problem. Because at the end of the day, it's making life better for somebody who could fall by the wayside. So I talked to Des already, what we're going to do when I come back. I mean, Simo, at this point in time, is dealing with the team. So I'm really handed the team to Simo and Craig and Uncle. So they are handling the team. And I'm looking now for young people, young players, male as well as female, to see where we could draw them in to make life better. I have seen it with my son-in-law, Jojo, what difference that made. I've seen it with Kitwana. My son also went on a scholarship. You follow? You know, you have a number of people that have seen it firsthand. And to transform somebody's life in that way, there is no better present to give a parent or the person than to give them that aspect of life, that quality of life. The world is very competitive now. Very, very, very competitive. Before you think for a job, they want to know what your qualification. Right? We tell them you went to so and so school. No. They want to know which school you went to, what you have.
Well,
yeah.
While we're on that, if I may join in calling you Da as well, there's one called Da. I have a question, not being biased, but why didn't fellas like Simo, Craig, and Ivan got scholarships?
Okay. What we were doing, let me tell you something. That's a good question. Um, I have a player, I know he's still vexed with me in relation to the scholarship program. What you had to do at the same time, give the quality. You see, like the Chris Bain, he was quality.
Yeah.
When you give a school quality, they come to you. Because remember, that same school has Jamaica, it has Trinidad, they they have other Bermuda, and they have a lot of things. So you have to give the most skillful player. If you come and you include someone like, for instance, Craig was always a hard worker. He had the prerequisite, the academic prerequisite. But you could not have sent Craig as a one person to a school because they want people who will be game changers. Chris Bain is a game changer. You follow? Calvin from Grenada, nice. He was a game changer. Merriman, game changer. So this was one of the reasons you just couldn't go into it like that. As the time went and things just fell apart. But this time coming, we'll have to able to try to get two. So if either there's no school except with Keith Warner and Chris Bain, yeah, they went to the same school. In doing that, you send two quality people. But we could always in future send a skillful person and one that is not so skillful. The average guy who is not skillful, America could get them by the dozens because I don't to kick the ball and run. Nice. You have to give them somebody that makes the difference to the team. And unfortunately, the program just folded. I can't remember because it's just like, I don't know if it was the economy or whatever. Fontenoy United used to be touring every year. Nice. Every year, Fontenoy United used to be touring the Caribbean. And it could have been a hurricane or something. It just eventually, the tours stopped. I mean, flights would have come more expensive. We would have gone to St. Vincent on overseas tour. That is just to make the point I'm trying to make. We toured overseas St. Vincent. We went St. Vincent with Fontenoy United, with a youth team, a women's team, and a senior team. We went Trinidad with a senior team. We went St. Lucia with a senior team. We went St. Martin with a senior team. We went Tobago with a youth team and a senior team. And it could have been some hurricane or something came and it just, the tours kind of collapsed here. And I think it could have been at that same time, the scholarships, for whatever reason, but it's something we are going back into. And it's important, it's a good question the guy asked, because we had to send the cream first in order to have a reputation that you're going to get good people from this school.
Yeah, there are two questions that sort of, they correlated. Clev is saying, how about establishing a safety net system for the age retired footballers in the league or the forgotten? A GoFundMe account and a House of Heroes. The least we can do, see so many at home in destitute situations, right? That's one. And Anthony the Riggs is saying the question raised about some sort of fund for outstanding past national players. And does you have the time to address that? Is it sad to see?
What's the last question? I didn't hear.
Well, he's talking about the some sort of fund being established for outstanding past national players, and if you, as a past national player, can address that. And I think it relates to the question or the suggestion by Clev Depredine regarding the establishing of a safety net system for the aged and retired footballers in the league of the forgotten, a sort of House of Heroes, doing something for footballers of the past who would have been, quote unquote, as he said, scrunting,
when I was president, I helped quite a few people with getting jobs. I must confess that it's very difficult for the FA, whether it's Cheney or whoever is the president, to be assisting continuously a player who is no longer playing, because the numbers will become enormous. Every year you go have retirement. It is better to do what I said about Jojo. We have to look at the guys who are young, who are playing the football, and insist that they learn a trade, insist that they do better in school and go on to get scholarships and go on to get to university degree. And by so doing, it helps them and their family. The other way around of you use, and I used to use that term when I was growing up. Queen's Park used to have racehorses. We used to have horse races in Queen's Park. And I always told players, and still tell them, I don't want to use you as a racehorse. That when you're racing, when you're in your prime, they bathe in the horse, they have a piece of thing to pull down the water, they bring them there, they have a groom, they do that, they clean them out, they do that. As you can't race no more, they leave it in the pasture. They leave the horse to eat mud in the dry season in the pasture. That same horse, 2-3 years ago, they were grooming it, they were bathing it, they were what? Find out how much retired horse I ever get a bath. And I always draw that example. Yeah, think about it. When a horse retired, you have no more bath to get. They give you bath because they want you to run, they want to care for you. And it's not, with all fairness to the people in the association or the horse racing or whatever, it is a cycle that while that horse is being raced, while you are racing that horse, do what you could do for that horse at that time. You remember what I said about Jojo? You remember what I said about Calvin and Merriman? Is that I wanted to take them out of that cycle at that point in time. I don't think I could have done much for Merriman had he not go on scholarship and he stay on his grunt on the side of the road. It's very difficult at that time because he would not have been an independent person. The FA, whether it's Cheney or Rama, whoever, could give Tom Jones something in the hand. But that is not how you want to see a human being live. No, it's not fair to the human being. It is the responsibility of the FA. It is the responsibility of the club that when you see a young player in your fold, you have to, at this point in time, guide him into going into the best. It's like I told you about Nixon. Nice. And other players, I told them that. You have to guide them at that time to to do something that would make them self-sufficient at retirement. So the aspect of a handout to the player, I've seen, look at Dougie Drayton, I've seen players just in a way like that. We have to address it. We have to arrest the situation that the players who might not, all right, for instance, let's look at Club X. Club X have this player real good. The first thing I just want to know, what is the level of education? All right, Club X, that man went primary school and he dropped out of primary school. Well, he had to do classes. That's where he had to start today. He has to do classes. I was able to get him into an electrician class or so and so. And that's what we had to do. I'm willing to assist the FA in trades for those people who are not academically oriented. That when they can't play no more, they can't play anymore, they would have something to fall back on. I do not think that giving out, the guys will come almost like beggars because the FA would not be able to afford paying 50 men who didn't do anything. I hate to say didn't do anything with their life. It was not properly guided. Let's put it like that. 50 men that were not properly guided. Nice. Whether they were on this or whether they were on that. It's going to be difficult for the FA. It's difficult for any association, the club. So we have to identify it very, very early. They're in their 20s, they're in their teens, they're not going to school, get them to school. It's like, oh, I tell you, Jojo, break open the school. I insist. No, I don't have to get Jojo anything no more. I live in Jojo house right now. You understand? And I think that's the direction in which we had to go. Yeah.
There is let me see. There is one question that came up. Did Mr. Fox and Alistair Tellisford play junior league football for Palmer School at the same time?
I'm glad you bring up that one. I'm very glad you bring up this one because I thought of it. I had it. I have seen local players. If you ask me, the person who is the best player I've ever coached, I would say Otis. Otis from England. I thought Otis was the best player.
That's Otis Roberts, right?
Otis Roberts.
That's
Otis Roberts.
Jason Roberts' uncle, right?
Yeah. Jason came playing for a Premier Division team in England as a striker. Jason came 2 seasons after. Jason is nowhere near. And mind you, Otis never played Premier Division. He played some smaller league. Jason came, he was a Premier Division player when he came. He played about 2 seasons with us. He scored against Trinidad, whatnot. Otis Roberts was his uncle. And I would say here and now that it is the best player I've ever worked with. I'll give you some example. I ain't forget Alistair, coming back to him. Otis, he is so unassuming. This guy, you'll never know if he could play. I remember I was doing some free kicks once. We were going in Aruba or somewhere we were going and play, one of them thing countries. And I doing the set plays, and I would just come and kick it over the wall because I practice a lot with that. And nobody ain't gonna do it. Otis, unassuming, he on the back, he on the side doing something else. And this fella saying, oh, give me a piece, Pele say, give me this one, give me that one. And the thing not working. I say, Otis, watch now, come. I want the ball over the wall. And I do it again. They used to marvel at how I'll do it, but what they didn't know is the secret. I do it a million times, practicing, And Otis come on, whoosh. He hit the ball, the goalkeeper didn't move. I say, Otis, do it again. He said, really, coach? Just so. He speaks very, very low. He said, really, coach? I say, yeah, do it again. Whoosh, far corner. He's doing it better than me 10 times because he's doing it with a velocity that's much greater than mine. How I doing it is chipping it over the wall. If you goalkeeper real tall and you're agile, he will save it. No goalkeeper in the world will touch what he was doing. I said, okay, that's good enough. And we were preparing for a match in one of them Dutch countries. But lo and behold, in a tight situation, 1-1, we get a kick outside the box. There was somebody, I can't remember who is the person, he was on the staff, but he joined us because he was coming either from the States or somewhere. But he was on the staff, but he never saw Otis train. I said, we win the match. Just so. I said, we win the match. He said, what do you mean we win the match? I said, look, we got a free kick on the edge of the box. He said, so who you have? I said, oh, that guy, they come from England. A man bad, that's goal. I said, you're crazy, it must be goal. Well, I didn't have to say who. Everybody go to Otis. Well, blah, blah, blah. Otis knows but he's so unassuming. The man hit the back of the neck before the goalkeeper could react. I have never seen him miss that. We came back and we trained him for other games, and at no time he trained free kick or he showed a free kick. But he was very unassuming. He is the best player that I've ever worked with. I've seen Elliot Maguire. I've seen Sampat Harbin. I've seen Pele Joseph from Point. Very good player. I've seen Pringle was a good player. Daya Marquez would have won player of the tournament in 1970. Ram Fuchs would have won best player in Grenada in 1971. This one would have done that. But if you ask me who's the best Grenadian player I've ever seen, it had to be Alistair Telesford. Alistair Telesford was going to primary school, not 16 years yet. And in those days, Autumns and Dauntless and Hurricanes were big names, big men. And this was a primary school guy dominating. This guy, you'll never see him run with his hands extended. You know when you're jogging and your hands kind of halfway there at a 90 degrees, your elbow and your thing at a 90 degrees? At full speed, his hands, that's where his hands are at a 90 degrees. And this guy just magic, unassuming magic. I've worked with a lot of good players, right? I still put Otis as the best person I've worked with, but locally, well, obviously, I didn't work with the Bertie James and the Clarksons and those Elliot and them. They were basically my age group. But in people who I've worked with, you put Alistair in that group. Nice. And I didn't really work with Alistair as such because he would have gone away already. So locally, the best player, in my opinion, from my tactical awareness, is Alistair. Alistair Telesford. And I'm glad the person bring up his name because he's just special. And he live right in the park, if you understand. He live right there.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, them names are called Zagada, not far from that. Trust me. Zagada is not far.
Yeah, Zagada, Rudolph Cyrus, right? Yeah.
Rudolph Cyrus is not far from him. Yeah. And somebody could say, but how you could say Rangers, these two players from River Road, I don't want to know where you're from. Because Pele, despite the fact that he paid for point, he was from St. Patrick's.
Yeah.
But a Pele and a Zagada, when I had both of them on the team together, Zagada is the kind of person that his work rate, Zagada can run, Zagada can, like he broke, like he walking bend, like he whatnot. And I talking that now when he old, when he young. But his work rate, his vision, his everything. He's just a workhorse with the highest technique you will meet. You don't meet. You see, like Ozil for Arsenal.
No, yeah.
Very skillful, but he wouldn't do no work. You just watch football. Tell me any very skillful person you see that does work a lot. He doesn't work. He doesn't think. In any game, any of them game, the very skillful player very rarely works a lot. They come in one side packages. Zagada came in both packages. He worked as much as or more than anybody else, and he's more skillful than anybody else. But I remember when I had him and Otis on the team, I make Otis the playmaker. Otis was not the worker. Nice? But these were two gems I had on the team at the same time. No, Zagada is not far, if you ask me, from Alistair. And maybe it's one of the two of them. Put Daya right there. Daya Marquez right up there with them. Right up there with them. Mm-hmm. So I'll pick about, if you ask me to put it in writing, I might give you about 5 or 6. Seriously, I can't unfold. But I had really good players.
Yeah. By the way, Mr. Folks, if you're free to have the Pauline or Jojo or whoever to bring you a drink, you have been speaking for quite a while.
Feel free, man. I good.
We do have another question there, very interesting, and from your good friend, Mr. Bruce Swan. Yeah, he said, you encourage a lot of teams to enter GFA in your time in an effort to expose communities to national football, which was successful. However, we see a negative impact on the quality of play. What is your vision to improve football locally?
Okay. Thank you, Bruce. Your concern is my concern. Let's say Bruce is correct. and correct from my understanding of football, that what we are seeing today is nothing close to what we had in the 70s with the Zagada and these names I call them, but light years. But as I said earlier in the program, I used to be training on mornings when I going up Dabo, whether I was the Alistair, the Elliot Maguire, whoever, running, coming down, and I couldn't make them out in the dark. I did architecture. So when I go to work with the Ministry of Works, if I didn't have any drawing at hand, I would come in the stand, leave work around 11 o'clock, walk with my ball, and I go under the stand. And Mr. my good friend, may he rest in peace, Sepri Lacret, all the way you say, Ram, don't dirty the wall, wash the ball, eh? You have the ball clean? I say, yes. And I will do an hour. I work out for the morning already. I do an hour. And in the evening, I come at the national team and do an hour or 2 hours. And I'm meeting people that doing morning and evening. That was a normal thing. No, you had to take players, young players, from the nonsense they call video games and whatnot. A whole set of distraction. And they come sometimes when the coach tell them to come practice. But you look in any community and see how many players working on their own. So Bruce, the video games and how society is structured now, it makes it very difficult for the present players to reach the level of the Pele and the this and the top guys there. It's very, very difficult. You know, when you just brought out your team, you had less problem in getting players to train than what Hard Rock now. Yeah, players used to want to play. The wishing that evening come, let me go and thing. And you used to train on mornings. I wonder which team in St. Patrick's train on mornings. You follow? But this is a one where the top teams were training on mornings and evenings. Yeah, the top teams. So it's like anything else. The more you practice, you know, there is a saying, might be a cliche, practice make perfect. But that is the big difference in that football and this football. As I want to say again, I have a grandson living in my house who can play. You know, it's frightening. It's basically frightening. I know what he tell me. He said football is a stupid game. You understand? Well, yeah. And I think that, Bruce, that is what I would say. So it's a societal thing, is what the players gravitate to. And what could solve it to some extent is the community building a structure where we can materially, Jane from the girls team and Tom and Dick from the boys team get scholarship. So you dangle that in the eyes that this will you'll make a better life. Let's do this, let's do that. It's like incentives. That is the kind of incentives we want. And I want to work with everybody in the coming years to see how we could activate the scholarship program. You know, you had to, because the point a speaker, one of them people would have asked what we could do to give back to ex-footballers. I want to give, not give back. I want to give to future present footballers so that I don't have to give back. Because in the end, you cannot satisfy their needs when they pass their best and waste the life. And they are now 40 and 50. You know, it's very difficult. But if and when that happens, we will see based on our budget how we could help them periodically, but they won't need help periodically, you know. They need help constantly.
Okay, and talking about needing help constantly, Toro Deputy is saying many of the challenges of retired sports and cultural contributors surround health. Perhaps Sports and cultural associations can examine participating in insurance mechanisms, whether state or private. I know GFA for once had considered some time ago, many years ago, about some sort of insurance scheme for football, so that when footballers are injured or whatever it is like that, there is something that they can piggyback on. But Tor is making the point of a sort of insurance mechanism, whether it's a state or private. What's your contribution to that?
Um, you see that after the effect, it's a lot of after the effect. It's how much you can do. There was an insurance that even during my time, we had an insurance that would cover certain things. But I still maintain the person's standard of living is what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned, I'm very concerned that this player who would have been so much of an asset to Grenada football is now, quote unquote, literally a beggar. Let's take Dougie, for instance. Right? It's literally not fair. Yes, he would have gone on to do this which we tell him not to do. But it is those things that I want to meet, I want to sit with governance, I want to sit with people in the clubs to see what we can do. We have to assist those who are gone. When I say gone, they reach 35 and they can't play no more. But we have to target those who are 16 and come into play and make them know that this is what we have to do in order to live a better life. So you literally get them into, I'm doing that with funding right now. You literally have to get them into trades. Work them out. What are you doing? Try to find out very, very, very early. It's your business. Don't come and tell me it's not your business what you do and what you didn't do. You see a fellow who might have dropped out of school, and you now have to make sure and ensure that this fellow only have 10, 11 years now. And then he go come like a doggy. So let us make sure that he doesn't come like a doggy. Rangers have a good example that a young player come in and he playing bad boy with pants on the bottom and them nonsense, and you have to watch it and say, we must never have another doggy on we hand. So you pull him up and you say, look, so and so is the situation, this is what we want, this is what we want, this is what we want. We do that to a great extent in point. We do that. Craig Charles is a good example. Craig is one of the leaders in the club. And I remember there was some point where Craig, with his job, was going through this and that, and people trying to keep him along. I say, Craig, leave it. Leave that job. Apply for this one. Do so and so, so and so, so and so. Chenny will tell you the same. Nice. Chenny. Yeah, Chenny Joseph. There was a time that he's looking for a better life and a better job. I say, Chenny, come, so and so. Boom. I go write a recommendation for you. I'm going to do so and so. You must get to when I write it. I ask, you see, because what people, whether you was anti-revolution, whether you were anti-point, whether you were this, there is not a single person in this country that doesn't respect me for what I stand for. They might not agree with what I stand for, but they know it's all about people. Right? It is all about people. So when I do a reference for anybody, it has weight. And they will call me and I will tell them so and so, so and so. I will touch their conscience that this person's parents don't have, and you really had to do it. I can't go back to this person's parents in the day of going to school or didn't go to school. No, that's not the issue. The issue is that this person, we have to save them. Save them from that level of poverty. You follow? And that's my life. That, for the rest of my life, that's how I want to live, to help people to become a better human being and as self-sufficient as possible. So I think it's to think on your question, the people that are already reaching that, it makes it difficult. But we have to look at the future. We have to look at how do we handle things in the future. It is your business. The guy who is not working and he's on your team, it is your business. I'm talking now about the management of the team, not necessarily the coach, but if the coach is in management, that is good. You know, it is your business. Like I go back to my Simo. Simo had a beautiful mother and a stupido father. And Simo was a bright. Simo head is an encyclopedia. There's nothing he doesn't remember. Anything, anything. As a matter of fact, with all due respect, when I was preparing for this program, I called Simo. Simo gave me date and everything, every single data from 1969. Every single data that Simo gave me that. So since that time when Simo was going to secondary school, I went to Simo mother and I went to Simo father. And I told them, I said, look, he and Kitwana was like twin brothers. He might be a year or two older than Kitwana, but I'll give a joke. At times somebody hit him and he say, he start crying. Yeah. I would tell Kitwana when he come. He's younger than him, you know. So he had to report to Kitwana. That is the way they were. And I went to Simo mother and his father. I said, look, I have this program going on. And Simo has to go university because Kitwana will. Kitwana shall go university. But with all due respect to them, they couldn't fathom what I was saying. And Simo at that time, he just wanted to play, he wanted to do this. And Kitwana came and he get the necessary prerequisite to go thing, and Simo didn't get it. But Simo, there is something about being intelligent and being successful educationally. The fellow with a great memory will become a doctor, will become a what, and he might not be the best doctor. The intelligent person would be the best doctor. But when you have a memory like Simo, you could pass any exam. Any exam. There's no exam in the world that Simo teach him and he won't pass. You follow? Because Simo is a kind of person like that. And Simo didn't go. Simo didn't go because he couldn't see it at the time. And unfortunately, the mother and father didn't see him beyond the horizon, the immediate one. I think Simo always wanted to be a Stevido because his father was a Stevido and this and that and that. But I wanted Simo with that retainment, the way he could retain, to go on to university. It was hard when Kitwana went and Simo didn't go. But that didn't mean nothing to Simo. Maybe still it doesn't mean anything to Simo because Simo inherited his father's role in the Stevido. And you know the Stevido is a comfortable job. You know, it's a comfortable, but not to say that he fell apart. And this is the kind of thing, I go kind of broad in answering the question. But I think it's one where we have to identify horses for courses.
Yeah. Well, and while we are on Seymour and the issue of Fontenoy, because Martin Alexander, what's your take on the present state of Fontenoy, young people in the community and Fontenoy United?
Okay. As everybody else, we have it very hard in attracting people to play football. It's very hard, literally impossible. I'm not talking about the COVID now. When last Fontenoy United play, I'm talking they have a competition for four teams. But when I was growing up, when I was president, we would have had football every week. Football. No, you don't know when GFA is starting. You don't know when it's ending. They have, I don't want to reach that. I want to spend time on that. GFA has circumvent a structure where you can get Shane, you can get a number of top players. Listen to this. You can get a number of top players come together and form a club. Say they form a club. They break away from Paradise. They break away from Hurricanes. 3 or 4 players break away from this one and break away from Rangers. And they form a club. And in forming that club, they call it a club, It's a team.
Yeah, a team.
A team. They enter GFA. Because of the skill set they have, they'll win the competition. So They are now 1 year old. When they become 2 years old, listen to me carefully, they have a vote. They could vote. Fontenoy, 51 years old with a structure, executive and whatnot, don't have a vote because we were demoted by losing points in a DC. Not on the field of play. We lose points in a disciplinary committee matter. I think it was with Chantimel. I'm not blaming Chantimel. And we don't have a vote. When I was there, when Mr. St. John, God bless his soul, was there and people like that, and Lahey and Bumpy and all of them, it was one club, one vote. Now it is fabricated in such a way that only the Premier Division teams could vote, but all teams play in the same subscription. So a structured club, I remember the president told me he checked Fontenoy executive not too long, and this was their position. I said, well, I have confidence in them. But it was so nice, I could have tell me he's checked Fontenoy United executive. I wonder how many clubs he's going to be able to check their executive. You follow? I wonder. Our bank balance, our this, what we do. But yet still in a GFA that we have 50 years with coaches we give to GFA, president, national coach, whatnot, and still have an organization that is functioning and we don't have a vote. Would you believe that we had to beg somebody to vote in this direction when that person doesn't have a team? You think it easy? So these are the things I ask, and I tell the president, I say, it is manipulated, and I don't want you to look like that. The structure must be one member, one vote. I say, you could imagine that we voting to elect or move Dr. Mitchell, and it's only people in managerial position that could vote. I say, it comes the same. It comes the same. It just doesn't make sense. So that is one of the tasks I had to fight. And these are structurally, those are the irregularities you have to call it.
So you're agreeing that there are serious structural and organizational deficiencies within the current construct of the GFA?
Serious, you call it? I say madness. It is a cabal. It is not fair. It is not intended to be fair. Hello? Yeah, it is not intended. And you must confess that earlier in my program, I tell you, all what I do in my life is try to be fair. It mightn't be popular at times, the position I take. It wasn't popular with the football community when I leave my good architectural job, so and so, and go and work for nothing in the revolution, Yeah, I just go and work for nothing. But I know I was making a better day. I was trying to form a better day for younger people. I was trying to be fair.
Okay. There's another question here, but before I go on to the question, just a little banter. Clev has been throwing that banter at you for quite a while now, but I must get it to you. Ram, I'm asking again, did you all throw Saga overboard after losing to Dazzlers in a soft shoe competition?
Well, let me tell you something. The honest truth. I could answer it and say yes. But at that time, it was not Fontenoy United. It was what you call Point. And we used to go to Tantine in boat. Nobody didn't have transport at the time. Before my time, when I was a little boy, I used to ask for a ride in the boat to go down. The team used to leave Fontenoy and go and play in Tantine in beer competition.
In a boat?
Via boat. Yeah. We used to go via boat. So, Saga was the pillar of the rock in the back. But Saga crazy as far as I'm concerned. So when I small, I didn't used to play at that time. Some misunderstanding the argument, they chose Saga overboard. Because they feel Saga lose the match. But I like to tell you, that's what point was. Even before me, they had that passion. There was always that passion for football. We were quote unquote discriminated against because with all fairness to Big Dog and them, we would come down That's where the football stadium is there. We play in there. It's called the ground 2.
Yeah.
And we would be playing there. And them dauntless and Autumn's men come. And we had to move because we're not a GFA team. We had to move. We picked 2 teams, and playing because we reached there early, whether it's a Saturday morning or whatever. And 5 or 6 men come. And they say, oh, some fellas want to take them on, but a few of us will say, but no. And I really did believe that GFA thing, and that is what. So we had to hide now to come and train. You follow? And, that is how things were at the time.
Okay, there is a direct question to you. Coach, what you think about the president of the GFA? Now he's working to the development of football. And I assume they're referring to the current president of the Grenada Football Association, Chenny Joseph. This person wants to know what you think about it.
Chenny has always had a lot of bright ideas, but that is Chenny. A lot of bright ideas. Some might work, some mightn't work.
Would you say ambitious? Would you use the word ambitious?
I say madness. Madness. Somebody more mad than ambition. Nice. It's a kind of crazy ideas. When I take it from my perspective, some of it is kind of crazy. Nice. If it is him, well, I talk to him, we do well. And he realized I'm not angry. I'm bitter with the aspect of taking away club votes. And it's one set of people are voting and others paying the same money and can't vote. And he tells me it's not he. He naming somebody, I won't name them here. He naming somebody that is responsible for that. I said, Chenny, I know you're better than that, man. Don't give me that, no, man. What kind of nonsense is that? It's not about you being the president. It's not about you being the president. It's about the development of football. Nice. There is not really an argument. I don't know if it's a rumor that there is a club that should be getting demoted, but the club might be preferential to Chenny and they can't get demoted. No. So you're having all kind of nonsense and Nancy story. But I want to tell Chenny or whoever, you are bigger than that. The structure, let's do a fair structure. Let's develop football and not necessarily to hold on to a power. I have been going to executive meeting when the Royston Lahey and these people were there. And then I eventually become part of the executive. I eventually become president. And been out for a while. Kwaji was president, come back president again. And I can tell you, there was always, during those times, a level of respectability in the GFA. So if you got a position, an executive position, you got it because you were doing something right or what the situation. If you got demoted, it would have been because you didn't get the necessary, prerequisite point to stay up. No, it's not so. No, it's just not so. And this is what I find, if you ask me, and I spoke to Chenny about it. I said, you cannot hold on to power in that way, where it looking shady. It looking shady. He has to. If he is doing a good job, one club, one vote. I tell you something, let's say 40 clubs. If the 40 clubs are financial, they should vote. And with that vote, if you win, you have a mandate. We're not talking about rig election. Grenada ain't accustomed with that. We think we did in Guyana? No. We don't want to rig. You want to know what you are doing if people are satisfied with it. And unfortunately, this is not what is in thing. They have what they call conference and this not and nonsense. What you're telling me about conference? I am a club. Since when Fontenoy United? Listen to the irony of it. Fontenoy United, 50 years. And still the governance, you have an executive, we have meetings, we have this. We make decisions that, is not a one-man decision. I'm out and the club is functioning. And this one doesn't have a vote in GFA. But a club that cannot have a meeting, not a club, a group that cannot have a meeting because there's a few players right around. they have a vote. And we, to make the rudeness even more, to make the rudeness into madness, we now have to ask someone who doesn't have a club, but is aligning to a club. We have to ask them to vote in that direction. But that person, because with all fairness to that person, you have 5 or 6 clubs. And that person obviously, very likely, will vote in his position, in his way, the way he sees it. So Fontenoy United does not have a vote. Madness, madness. Cheney is supposed to be. If I will tell Cheney, I watch Cheney and I say, Cheney is a weak president, man. Oh, you can't fix that. I mean, if he benefiting you and you want to operate like that, then you're flawed. Then you will be very flawed if you cannot fix that. Could I go and tell the man in River Sally or the man in Tempe or River Road or Point, by this general election, you can't vote because Mr. Tom Jones, the manager of the bank, voting on your behalf? You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I mean, madness is not fair. It's not fair. But when I come back, in one way or the other, I'll be involved in the running of the GFA. And when I say the running, I'll participate in the organization, the structure, trying to fix things like that. My biggest project, one club, one vote. That's going to be my biggest project. It's only fair. One club, one vote.
So can I say from here, Mr. Folks, that you have not turned your back on football and football development in Grenada?
Did anybody tell you that?
No, well, I
want to believe somebody tell you that. Watch. Fontenoy United, the club, what we do, have made the village one of the tightest knit villages in the country. Have given the village a level of pride. I remember when we used to be going and play in the countryside. Mothers, we used to go 2 and 3 buses. A bus of female alone, the elderly woman and one kind of thing. That's the way we used to travel. That's the way we used to do. Economically and otherwise, and I think more culture than anything else, because if football fall apart, we don't have that anymore. But the older person, they'll say, how are you pass? How are you pass today? It is a unifying action of the football. It's like a vehicle of bringing the village close together. And it's something I want us to continue with. But, it's very difficult. Had I been different, I say, watch, Jack wanna throw me out of football. These people, them good right to the day. I know people will say so. But I believe when I say that, the aspiring guy who is now 12 years and he is just going into secondary school, his parents cannot afford it. He should have a chance of higher education. That is the rest of my life. So whether I have to do it through GFA, whether I have to do it through Fontenoy, I cannot see myself turning back on football. It is a vehicle that has brought a number of young people to a certain level. Bruce will tell you that. He's one of them. And I would be in the vanguard of that move to try to get as much poor people children having a better education and a better life.
Okay, well, we have just about 10 minutes remaining in the program, so folks, I must thank you for all that you have provided us there, and including the last part that you have not turned your back. You caught me off guard. But I have something there I wanted to talk to you about in terms of Shalry Joseph. Shalry Joseph was on our program some weeks ago. And you know by now that Shalry is no longer the coach, and he was broadsided. In fact, Shalry was probably one of the first who started to be open and frank. And he gave the reasons why that he had to return to Boston and the whole, the whole yard and a half. But based on your experience of the GFA, if you had the opportunity, you're the president of the Grenada Football Association, you were in the leadership position of the GFA, Um, how would you have been able to salvage that situation with Shari as coach? How would you have done it differently?
Well, I want to stray, and we'll bring me back in a while. I want to stray a bit from the direct question to first and foremost say I might not have hired Shallery. With all due respect to him, nice, his talent is whatever, I might not have hired Shallery. I might have gone for Otis or Jason or whoever. During my time, president and coaching, we had made numerous attempts. We heard about Shallery playing outside there and doing well. Hello, you hearing me there?
Yes,
Hello?
yes, yes.
All
You
right,
are there.
because I'm not seeing. We heard about Shallery. I knew Shallery before he went away. Nice child, so and so. And we tried because we were trying to get players from outside as much as we got from England, people who didn't even born in Grenada. And they came and they gave it the best. And we couldn't get Shallery. Shallery would have laid out a condition for his dog that we had to meet. And it's against that background we never got Shallery. So there is no way, I'm telling you, there is no way I would have left a Nixon who was with us in dry season, in rain season, when the road was rough, or almost anybody else in Grenada. And especially when Nixon would have brought that team, he and I would have brought that team to Gold Cup when we win nearly win the Caribbean Cup. There's no way I would have taken Shallery. So it's very difficult for me now to come and assimilate whether it was right to do Shallery this or whether it was. I wouldn't have picked him in the first place because he, I'm using this word cautiously, with a lot of caution. He refused, very caution, to play for his home country because we did not know where to put the dog. I rest my case with that.
But eventually, I'm saying he was hired. So I'm saying if you
Okay.
were in position at the time, yeah,
If I was in Shallery's position,
or probably Cheney's position as
if I was,
president.
oh
Jeffrey.
God, Bascom, you like trouble, eh? I tell you, I will hire him.
But yeah, he was. But eventually, he was hired.
All
So I'm
right.
saying,
So, all right, okay. Let's put it like that. He was hired,
yeah,
and for whatever reason, Ram is now the president while he's hired. That
yeah,
sounds better.
yeah,
Because if you continue putting it, we wouldn't go far. If you
yeah.
continue putting it, if I did hire him,
No,
I
so
would not have hired him.
so we gone past that in terms of him being hired,
Yeah. So he
and Ram,
hired.
and Ram is now president.
Yeah. And what you asked, what's the question now?
I'm saying, how would you have handled that situation with him at the time? There.
Well, the honest truth is, I do not know what really happened.
Okay.
Okay. I thought he started very bad, and I didn't mind. I tell you the truth. But in the end, I know Nixon would have played a pivotal role. In the end, the results were not bad.
Yeah, but I think he did say that in the interview with him.
All right,
And
that's honest.
yeah, him
And let
and
me tell you,
Nixon.
why I tell you this? I
Yeah.
sitting down with, when I was in Grenada, I sat down with Nixon and Shallery more than once, Shallery died the first time he wanted to leave, I sat down up in the top ground with him and tell him, give it your best shot, man. You have to have Nixon, let Nixon deal with you because he was complaining to me of the conditions and what been happening. I said, I don't like to see national coaches being changed around like so you're changing your underwear. You wear underwear one day and you have to change it. And the national coaches seeming to be in that category. So I told him, I said, look, stick around still, man. Try to resolve that situation. I would talk to Cheney. I would, you know what I mean? I'm telling you, I would not have hired him. But in view of the fact that he was hired, I thought bringing sanity to the position and whatnot, rather than fighting and whatnot, I would have dealt with it differently. Now, I do not know. In defense of Cheney, at this point, I do not know what were the conditions he was asking. Maybe the conditions he was asking could have been enormously out of GFA reach. Maybe. But I must say, Cheney and the executive, they bore with him when he was not doing well, and there was sufficient reason early on to terminate the contract. They kept him, give them that credit. So when the tide swing, whatever he was asking for, justifiable or not, I think they were in a position to say hey or nay, because when they had an opportunity with a bad result, somebody gave us 6, somebody gave us that, they could have terminated him. They did not. So I am putting now, not in defense of the executive, I am saying I'll have to go with the executive because they could have moved him before and they did not. You follow?
Mm-hmm.
But because I don't know the whole story, I don't know the whole one.
Okay.
I always try to be fair. Mm-hmm. And I fear nobody.
Right. Well, again, 5 more minutes remaining, Mr. Folks.
No, man, I have time, you're afraid? I have time.
Something about you in terms of, and you mentioned about Fontenoy being not just a team, but a club, but you played cricket, club cricket, and you also played mind sports like the dominoes and the drafts and things like that. You seemingly an all-rounder.
Well, as I told you, you heard about me, what Mr. Toots Sylvester, this man named Toots Sylvester, did to me. He denied me education. And my whole life was sports. All the sports I have touched, quote unquote, I've been very good in it. Cricket. In growing up, I love cricket much, much more than I'd like football. And I found myself in 1969, 70, 71, thereabout, being on the national cricket team, captained by my friend Dr. Mitchell, and being on the national football team at the same time. The national football team, especially when Uta was there, at least the national football team used to be seasonal. And when Uta came, it was all year round. So I had to make a decision between football and cricket. And because the football was more continuous, I had to leave off the cricket. So I would have gone to Dominica and St. Vincent in 1971 and still go back to these places later in the year. In March, I went there and I represent Grenada in cricket. And that was in March. In November, December, I went back with the national team. So I was, a quote unquote, a certainty on both teams. And then I realized I had to make a decision, because sometimes when it's the football training, the cricket training might be on those days. Football is a train much more than cricket. And, you know, regrettably, not regrettably, but sadly, I left the cricket. I had to leave the cricket because the football took up, you know, he infringed on the space. And I really had respected Uta. Really had respected Uta. Another man in the football, I must say, like I said, Roy St. John, good human being. There are a few people I respect or respected the way I did to that father named Manny, Roy St. John. He was just something else. You talk about grassroots. You talk about a good human being. He was a father to every member on any other national team. And that, you know, connect me to football. And to some extent, rub off on who I am. Nice, yeah, that rub off on who I am. I haven't met an administrator close to him.
Okay. Well, the final question, and which I had in mind and just showed up on the stream as well, is that you have spoken about education, sports, community involvement. The only one we have not touched on yet, Mr. Folks, and which I want you to wrap on. Well, we have not touched on it in the broader sense. We touched on it a bit, but that is the final one I want you to wrap yourself around, is the political situation in Grenada. What's your assessment of political?
Well, before, don't say I dodged it, But there is one I wanted to touch on. All
Please,
right.
please do. Please do. You have the floor to do it.
All right, cool.
But just
Let
remember
me
that.
tell you. All right. Because I'm afraid to touch on the political situation when you might come and tell me no more time. Nice. I wrote some WhatsApp to some friends, and it had nothing to do because it's Troy Garvey. I saw they arrest Troy Garvey for some trees in the backyard. And I wrote, I'm not on Facebook, so I did it on WhatsApp. I have been the commissioner of prison. I've been a prisoner in the prison. And the aspect of, and it's somewhat political, so we're going to join the two of them. The aspect of marijuana being illegal is something that has to be looked at. I can plant a susub tree, I can plant a blogo tree, I can plant a mango tree and smoke the leaf if I want, how much I want. But I can't think this cannabis tree and smoke the leaf. You know why? The reason I cannot smoke the leaf and it's illegal is because the producers of cigarette would be offended by not getting sale. And you want to know how I connect it? Listen how I connect it. I can plant a cane here. When the cane is ripe, I make my molasses and I brew it into a babash. Bush rum, you call it. And if the police catch me, he jailing me. But I could buy 10 bottles of Clark's coat and drink it and dead, and everything is all right. It's something that we have to look at. We just must look at that. That it is one of a level of capitalism for the big man that is not fair. It is not, and mind you, I have never, ever put a joint in my mouth. I used to be home with a bigger brother. He was 2 years older than me. He's deceased now. And he, together with 5, 6 fellas, they come in. We share in the same room, and they're smoking. And when he reached to me, I take the joint and I pass it around. We're not the joint, we used to have it in a big in bowlie. Nice chalice, they used to call it. So it's big smoking. Boom, boom, boom. But he planting marijuana. He was a real marijuana one, so and so, so and so. And I had nothing. I say, well, it could be a blogger, leave the smoking. It could be anything. So I am one. And when I come back, those are the things. We're going into political just now. Those are the things, if I had to take the street to defend it, to saying that marijuana is getting a bad rap, too much of a bad rap. I come from a place named Fontenoy, very rural, and this strong rum kills so much people. It has changed. I know there are guys now in Fontenoy. I had them on the youth team. I'm close to 20 years older than them, and they look older than me because they fall to rum. But they could drink. They could drink the rum and dead, the strong rum. But they can't drink babash. The rum that we make, the rum that the gardener make, he planted the cane, he see it, he supervised it. He planted the cane, he brew it, and he get, this is the output of it. No chemicals in it. They say, no boy, this is illegal. We will put you in jail for drinking that. Drink the one with the chemical. Bathe with chemical. Bathe with chemical. A lot of them places where you see brewing rum, look and see if there are cane anywhere around it. That is why River and Tana respect them. But in Woban, when they were thinking, where the cane coming from? Chemicals. But not just the government. The system says, drink that and dead. But don't drink the one we're going to stop the sale of the capitalists. You see why I had to pick up gun? That is my biggest problem. That is one of my biggest problem. Let me hear your question again. I'll take a drink.
Yes, the question.
People heard that, yeah? People, you see that topic I added?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I know I could talk to everybody in Grenada, and I shall talk to everybody in Grenada. And that, yeah.
On to now the political climate, the political situation. Your assessment.
Well, all right. Let me, and I want everybody to listen to what I'm saying. When you talk about politics in Grenada, you have to talk Dr. Mitchell. All right? As I said earlier on, 1970-71, he was my captain of the national team. He was not just my captain of the national team. He was the captain of my club team. I was playing for Happy Hill at the time, before Fontenoy came on. I happen to have known him for a long time. And I know the guy. I think I know the guy. He could be touchy at times, but I honestly believe that he cares about people. It is no surprise to me that he built his house in Happy Hill. No surprise whatsoever. Is he perfect? Nobody is perfect. But a lot of people have, no, I don't want to use the word a grudge. A lot of people feel he has been there for too long. And I told my son, we were talking about that in Maryland not too long. I said the democracy says he doesn't have any time limit. And would you believe? I remember when a referendum was going wrong. That is the CCJ. And in that referendum, there were term limits,
yeah.
Term limits. There were term limits. Yeah. And would you believe the opposition tell its supporters to vote no? They voted no, and the CCJ, and they voted no on term limits. I said, where they get these kind of people? Somebody had to be crazy. Ask them how they voted. They voted no on term limits. Now, the United States has 8 years term limits. So I can't wait for Trump to go out there, somebody else come in, somebody with sense come in. But at least the United States have how much? 300 and something million? If we talk about term limits, we cannot, and it's only madness. We don't have the resources to say 8 years. How much would we say? I don't know. But as long as our election is not rigged, in my opinion, and the person goes up in front the population, and the population votes so and so based on the system we have, I would say we have to respect the outcome. If there is no rigging, there should not be any rigging. I say that as a preamble to make the point that what we have now is a lot of internet. Everybody has a voice, and everybody has this, and everybody has that. So somebody could just easily put out something. It doesn't have to be the truth. It doesn't have to be the truth. And slander and whatnot, whether it's the prime minister or the government, excuse me. And we are left to wonder, I wonder which one is the truth. I'll tell you. I'm in New York now. I just come from, I was in Maryland. I saw a government thing came out. That is the one in relation to COVID-19. And I have people in the government, we do well, right? And I saw this bulletin came out. And the first thing I do, I read it over. I say, boy, somebody crazy. Just so, I say, somebody crazy. So I pull my son, Kitwan, I say, Kitwan, look at this. Who crazy down in Grenada? I say, but Keaton so old, how this could happen? So I wrote one of them. And I said, look, The earlier you could get that off, please get it off. Now, what I convinced, it was never the people I know inside it, like especially my friend Kit Mitchell. He don't need to be a dictator. He don't need to annul laws. He don't need to do that based on his charisma and the voting. He going to win the election. They don't have much people like him. And let me just go off a little to tell you. Grenadians, if you don't know it, are very clannish. Grenadians don't check 100% on policy, you know. They check on person. You see Gary? Gary was charismatic. He was nice. He was this. He was quote unquote pretty. People voted for him. There are certain tribes that believe in a leader because of charisma and because of that. The Grenadian tribe is one of them. Keith Mitchell fits into that. When you put Tillman Thomas to Keith Mitchell, he can't win. The present leader of the opposition, they can't win. Keith Mitchell had to literally commit suicide. He will continue because he knows how to do it or what to do it. So I say all that just to tell you, with the media, one person could put up a lie and it spread all over. Now, I being here, away from Grenada, I have to now communicate to know, is that true? Is that not true? And that is what I did with the bulletin, bulletin that came out, the government bulletin. I told my friend, I said, look, I am 100% sure that the intention of the government is not to hold anybody at ransom or to rule by decree, because we don't need that. I say I'm 100%. I say, but that bill gives you the authority to rule by decree. I said, that is what that bill gives you. That bill's come just like after the quote unquote assassination of Maurice Bishop, and HA come and say, shoot on sight. That is like that bill. So the present government never needed that draconian bill for COVID, especially when they have done an excellent job on COVID, that we don't have any. And we had so much, 24 cases, St. Vincent Moy 50 something or whatnot. So it is one where I didn't see the need for it. And those things, once you made one mistake, especially, I give the government a lot of credit of pulling it back. Pulling it back, admit that you were wrong. And when you admit that you were wrong, there are few people who would respect you even more. But the one who wanted your throat, he's going to show that you're not infallible. Look at shit you're doing, because look at this bill and look at that bill and look at what he's doing and blah, blah, blah. You weaken your position. Has that weakened the NNP position? Yes, it has. It gives the protester a chip on his shoulder that we have to look for something else again, because that's what them fellas doing, and that's what them fellas doing, and that's what them fellas doing. But I'll tell you my history. I told you, Keith Mitchell, I supported him. He's my friend, my partner. Nice. It's like, you have somebody that you know from childhood, from thinking of you never know them to doing this and doing that, and you feel so and so. Nice. It's my partner. It's like Yankee Deputy, one of them fellas. My partner, I know them from long, so don't come and tell me about him. Nobody don't come and tell me how this one doing. It's like Chenny. Chenny was like my child. I tell you, for his job recommendation, whatnot. I still know Chenny, despite even be doing things that are not right. But nobody could come and tell me about Chenny. I know him. So against that background, I spoke to everybody and I say so and so. But the withdrawal of it weaken your position. And a lot of people now, or some people, would look at that position as the vulnerable. And I'm seeing more and more posting. And some of the posting, you wonder if it's true or if it's not true. Because I couldn't believe the one that where it that draconian thing. And as I said, I happen to know that there is no way the intention was to rule by decree. You don't need it. You have 15 seats. I 78. You might have catch me. But that bill gave them authority to rule by decree. And why you should want to rule by decree when you have everybody? So what that has done is strengthen the opposition. Even though you don't have, it's to strengthen the opposition. But the biggest problem that the opposition has, with all due respect to them, Grenada is like a tribe. Grenada is a tribe where people sometimes don't look at you in relation to right and wrong. It's who they like, who have that saga, who have that passion and still compassionate. And if you are a scientist, a political scientist, and you know how to build an economy and do everything and do it right, and you come in a Grenada election and you don't stand up by them boys by the road and drink a rum or take a thing or go by that old person and hug her up or whatnot, you don't get no vote, boy. No. Pete and Gary were very good at that. Pete was very good, or is very good, and Gary, was. And this is the charisma the guy has. He understands. I'll tell you something. After they came out of jail, Keith Mitchell came back and whatnot. And he said, well, Ram, he passed by home, I tell my partner, he passed by home. And he said, but Ram, so and so are doing this, are doing that. I put him down and I give him a good schooling. I say, them bandits you going with the joking making, you only tarnishing your image. I say, if I were you, I go as an independent and don't be contaminated by them. I said, too much bandits inside there. He said, God, Ram, so and so. Anyway, I give him the hints. I say, well, look, so and so. I said, boy, I voting for you, but it's hard to vote for that gang I see in there, man. So and so. He said, but Ram, you done revolution thing, blah, 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 blah. I said, don't go. Ask Kit Mitchell. I say, watch. They're going to gang up and deal with you, throw you out. He asked me, Ram, how you mean they will throw me out? I said, well, I can't give the exact detail, but trust me, you're going to be a threat, a big threat to the leadership or the dominance. And as far as I'm concerned, you had too much GMP inside there. And GMP was a class party in the Gary period. I say, you better believe. Boy, after about 2 years, he come back home, literally crying. But Ram, is the same thing you're saying, man. The same thing, so and so. That time, remember, they throw him out of the party. They throw him out of the party from something he stood up for and whatnot. I say, you were never a GMP. You were never a GMP. Why did you go there? Don't go there. And you went there. I said, don't go there. I told you that. Ask him, I told him. I said, we could sit down and work something. You mightn't win right now. Don't let the Americans tell you what to do. But the Americans put them together and fold them up. So he went into opposition. I told him that would happen. I said they're going to throw you out once they get comfortable. I told him that, actually. He really respected me. I said they're going to throw you out. I said, what, you know what happened? That will make you stronger. You might win the first time around, but don't ever go and make alliance with any other kind of people. And from there, he went on. He go on that thing, dealing with his kind of people. And here he is now. Because I know Grenadians are clannish. And they are clannish to the standpoint where they want charisma, old talk, whatnot. The fortunate thing about him, He could have been like Gary, never go to secondary school or never do so and so. He could have been like me and Gary. The fortunate thing about him, he was also intelligent and has this, and he's a PhD. That put the icing on the cake. It's very, very difficult. He had to literally commit suicide to lose a fair election in Grenada. Do trust me. Who are the thing? Franca Bernardine? Who? Who? Franca who? The masses didn't reach there. The masses don't know. The masses don't know her. She don't know. She intention might be good and the intention might be noble. But the present political situation, what we had to do, and I am, as I tell you, with a rum thing, I will pick up my card, my placard. I'm going to him, I'm going to everybody on this rum thing, gone too far. This bush rum versus Clark's coat and this marijuana. Why a man can have 5 trees, 10 trees in the backyard? What you gonna do? So all of a sudden, I go back to that. That is also political. All of a sudden, Bascom, you there?
Yes, I'm there. I'm listening.
All right. Listen, Bascom. A man could go and buy free a bottle of Gramazone. Everybody know if he drink it, he go dead. He could buy a bottle of Gramazone and drink. It's legal for him, even under 18. Send your son in the store, your 12-year-old son, and buy a bottle of Gramazone and see them give him the Gramazone. Be sure he go dead if he drink it. But he can't buy in no store selling a spliff. Who fooling who? Tell me, who fooling who? Is it our safeguard they're looking at? Is it our health they're looking at? No. The capitalists for he to make the money. America do it well, America's a smart place, You have some smart men, America has legalized marijuana in some states. But you know who dealing with the marijuana now? Big business. The small man cannot compete with them because they have hundreds of acres. And all of a sudden, it's these people now what capitalizing on the freeing up of marijuana. But in the Grenada context, somebody tell me why I could buy Gramazone and I can't buy a spliff. Think about it. For those of you who are listening, just think about what I'm saying. Is it your health they're looking at? So why I could buy the same Gramazone and I can't buy a bottle of Babash? For Christmas, I want a bottle of Babash. But illegal, I can't get it. But I could get Clark's coat. These are the things a progressive government has to deal with. And I've put it in front people already at government level. And I'll sit down with anybody and I'm picking up my flag. And when I'm ready to demonstrate, I'm demonstrating for that one. You see these points I'm making here? It is not fair. It is not fair unless the capitalists for profits and whatnot be making laws for capitalists. These laws were made before us, all right? That doesn't say we need to change it. We have to look at the laws and take laws that are fair to people. So the political situation, as I've said, anybody who's ruling, anybody, let me assume for whatever reason NNP goes out of power. The amount of bloggers you will get, if anybody else adding 1 and 1, another government come in power, let's put it like that, and they add 1 and 1 and they get 2, the amount of people who say 1 and another 1 is 11. They know 1 plus 1 is 2. They say 1 and another 1 is 11. And confuse people because they want power. You follow? The problem I have with the opposition, and I have a lot of friends in the opposition, they had to get the act right. I mean, if you're losing 7-8, like in some of the countries, or 9-6, you're losing all the seats, all 15 seats consecutively, 3 times now. Something is wrong. But I don't find anything wrong. It's retribution from the GMP type, the GMP people. These people had associated themselves with the quote-unquote upper class who don't care about Grenadians. You remember I tell you, and never sit down in the front seat in that school in Palmer School, that wicked school? Yes, the GMP was in the front seat.
Yeah.
It was not long that you didn't used to have a black person, a black face on the counter in the banks, That is in my lifetime, Fair skin mulatto you used to have. Yes. And I can't blame the fair skin and the mulatto, but that's the role they were playing. And the mentality is still there. The way some of them still look at us. Nice? But if they come in with that mentality to govern Grenada, they better think again. So keep Mitchell, there are people that, well, I know I have horse grooming, Trust me. I'm telling you, I have horse grooming. I know someone within the, and all go say we've been PRA together. You see this guy they call Peter David? If you meet a better human being than him, let me know. I want to meet that person. You hear what I tell you? And that way I could call names. I tell you, I grew up with Keith. We were on appeal team together, national team together, and I know he cares about people. But if Peter David didn't challenge Keith, ask Peter David. When Peter David went with the NDC, I pull him in. I say, you're crazy? I say, boy, NNP, ask him. I say, NNP is your home. I say, what NNP stands for, that is who you are. I said, don't go there. Don't go there. Ask him. When they throw him out, because he was the most popular person, and almost anywhere he'll go, almost anywhere he will go, he's a good human being. During the revolution, you know what's the name we call Peter? Peter, just like me, have he AK and he back and he Makarov in the waist and we bad. But the name we used to call Peter is Peace, Peace man, the man who would make peace with everything. The genuine peace-loving person. That is who he is. You look at Peter, he come from the same quote-unquote affluent background, affluent family. But watch he growing up and see who he should land with. Watch the person he had his first child with. Watch who he choose as his partners and his friends. He's a special human being. So I think the NNP, if you get another young Keith or another young Peter, but Peter better watch it, As he say, he'll never think about him for Peter. I'm telling you. Because I'm a Grenadian who cares. I really, really care about the ordinary people based on what I went through. And I think in the present political situation, based on the internet and whatnot, you'll get a lot of things that those of you who are not supportive of the government, I'm still asking you to double check this. Sometimes it's slander or whatever. Double check things that is anti-Grenada, anti-ruling party, anti-what. And I put Grenada first, I put Grenada first. So you're going to always have, there are people who have enough reason, and justifiably so, for not voting for Keith Mitchell. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there. But if you transcend that, some people cannot do it. They can't transcend the personal thing between them and Keith Mitchell and look at national level, what is best for Grenada. So therefore, the campaign against him and the vote against him, that's okay with me. Because if a bit I might say something that I shouldn't say, maybe after I will come and think. But at the end of the day, we had to look for people or a person, because I tell you, Grenada is like Indians, the Indian chief, you kill the chief and everything fall apart. That's exactly what Grenada, you trust me, it is like that. So we have to start looking for another Indian chief sooner rather than later.
All right, then. What a nice way to end, Mr. Folks. And back on time, or at least 3.5 hours. Well, that was interesting.
I'm take it as much as.
I know, but trust me, Mr. Folks, we will have time to come back again on the program, because next Saturday, God's willing, your your pal, your best partner, Paul Roberts, will be on the program. So obviously you'll take some notes, and I know you'll have to come back and rebut at some stage. You know?
No, I wouldn't rebut. I'll tell you the honest truth. Paul is my partner. As much as he campaign, he go in the country to get out Ram. But you have to watch Paul. Paul is my partner and will remain my partner. I know Paul a long, long time. There is no goalkeeper in the history of Grenada reach close or anywhere near to Paul Roberts' ability. But Paul is use anti preceding Paul name. Paul opposes everything. But ask him for one solution to a problem. One. I like Paul. Paul is the one that wouldn't afraid. He's a brave guy. He's not afraid to do anything or to say anything and whatnot. But from a development standpoint, has he ever worked with any club? Has he ever worked with any player? Has he ever found a job for unemployed person? Has he ever helped a family to get out of their poverty or their situation? No. He's a loner. Paul Roberts is a loner that his role is to mash down. And he's my partner. But this is who is Paul. And if Paul hear Ram saying that, Paul will say, this so and so Ram. But Ram, blah, blah, but Ram is my partner. You understand? Yeah, this is Paul. I have been in forums with Paul already, and Paul would look at the things that are negative, sometimes justifiably so. But I will ask Paul, what is the solution? He's not interested in a solution. He points out what he thinks, the things that he thinks are wrong. And we can't live without bringing solutions to problems. Fighting down the problem and always fighting down the problem is going to leave us leave us right down beyond the foundation. It's going to bury us. We have to be able to say, this is not right. This is right. This is a solution. Tell me, you know what, Paul, don't be afraid. Tell me one solution you ever bring to a problem. Well, you can tell me about 100 problems that you identified.
Mm-hmm. Well, he will have the opportunity to respond next week. I'm certain that, well, I mean, Paul admittedly had said at times that he goes into things when he doesn't like, he goes out to mash it up, as you would say.
I tell you the honest person,
he used
Paul
that.
want to mash up, but you never fix. Never fix.
But he will respond. He will respond.
It's no problem, man. My partner, man. No problem.
Okay. And I want to thank you, Mr. Folks. Again, as how we started, looking good. And I appreciate at 72, I mean, we spoke for 3.5 hours, and I mean, you're still ready to go. I appreciate that. And I want to wish you all the best. And I'm hoping that sometime in the future we'll be able to speak again on the program.
All right, let me just make this. I want to thank everybody for listening, and I just want to clear the air. I'm not dead. All right, I'm alive and kicking. I'm only, Bascom, the funny thing is that I came here, the green card thing where you had to come. So the most of us do is come for a month just to satisfy the prerequisites. And I came here in March. Could you imagine I leave Grenada on March 13th? Because by the end of March, my time would have been up, and I don't know what Trump would have said. And I'm keeping it because as I get older, healthcare. I mean, if you want to talk politics, what we have in Grenada, forget it. Nice. I have the opportunity for healthcare here, so I want to do it. It is against that I came here for 1 month in March. And what I'm faced with now is lock up and hide. Lock up and hide. A lot of the people you hear dying and whatnot are, should I call them crazy? Are people who not listening and following crazy Trump and disrespecting protocol from what the doctors say. As a result, I am locked up, I'm indoors, and I want the next flight. He had a flight come on the 19th. I tried everything to come. But what happened in Maryland, to take the test, you were getting 7 days before you get 6 to 7 days, working days before you get back the result. The airlines, the Grenada protocol, you must be tested 5 days before. So straight away, that put me out. That put me out. I couldn't get on that flight. So I come up to New York, closer to JFK, and I'm looking to come. But I have told my friends in government that I don't want no preferential treatment. No. The last thing I would do is, despite I want to come in Grenada like yesterday, is to come, and because it's Ram, he could go home. No, when I reach, I'll be living in my house alone. Everybody else up here, but I want to come home. So as a result, what I want to do is to wait till I'm waiting. I'm waiting until I can leave JFK, reach Morris Bishop International, take a vehicle and go home. But that doesn't seem that's going to happen anytime soon. Seriously. Because I find there are certain flaws. Let's look at the, sorry for taking up your time, but I just want to make this point. Let's look at the quarantine. I have been hiding in my house, the house by Kitwana down in Maryland, by Jamo up here. I'm hiding in the house, I tell you. I don't go out in the street. The street is right there. I don't go out. Right? I'm hiding inside here. And then when I'm ready to go home, I will be going and live with people in a building where I'll be using toilet together with people, different people, where I don't know who preparing the meals. I might be eating together with people. I find it, I don't do that up here. I find it is susceptible to, you know, the disease. I find it's almost unfair. I understand the government policy, and I don't want to come and rock the boat. But I've been reliably told that why are you talking about the Ram? That ain't gonna happen anytime soon. It might not happen this year, but I must come. So I might take the quarantine. I might take the how much days quarantine. You know, I mean, I really, really want to come. Say a prayer for me to come, man.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Fox. And even when you get back to Grenada, hopefully we can still try to make the link. And
I've always, you know, a term I always have. I hear people say this about Ram and that about Ram and whatnot, and I always tell them, if night turns into day, I could dance in the light. It mean, anything in my life, in my life, and that's been going on a long time. Anything I do, I should be able to do it in public. Nice? Anything I do that Tom will see, Dick, Harry, and James will also see. I don't do anything whatsoever that is not fair.
right.
Yeah. If it's not fair to others, I wouldn't do it. It's just my whole life.
All right. Nice seeing you once again, Mr. Fox. I really, really appreciate that. And I guess all the folks are saying, thank you once again for being, and whether it's Cleve, Toro, Edwin, Anthony DeRiggs, the host, Merriman.
I appreciate that.
All the folks who have been on, they really appreciate you being on.
Thank you.
And
I'm available anytime.
Yes. Thanks very much, Mr. Fox.
All right, thanks, and bye to everybody. Hope you come home soon.
All right then, thank you.
Thank you. Good.
So it was Mr. Ram Fox, former president of the Grenada Football Association. He's also a former captain and coach of the national team, speaking here in the United States. Actually, he's back in Brooklyn, I think. Brooklyn, New York. He was in Maryland earlier in the week, and he's hoping to be back in Grenada very soon. I appreciate how technology really brought us in, because I'm over in New Jersey today, and I'm speaking to folks in Brooklyn and folks in Grenada and around the world watching it. Thank you very much. It was a very informative program, and it's probably my first program that went the distance. We had Ray Roberts, who went 2 hours. Ram Fox went 3 hours and a half, and we could have gone more and more because there was so much more to talk about. But as we say, and he has accepted the invitation to be on the program some other time, where we'll be able to discuss not just sports, but other issues as it relates to, society development and thing. So folks, thank you very much. And don't forget that coming up on Thursday, we'll be talking to professional basketballers, Daniel Regis and also Robertson. That's Askin Robinson. And then on Saturday, we will have Paul Roberts, former station manager, sports broadcaster, and administrator. He'll be speaking to us. We hope to have another long and informative discussion. Thank you very much, folks, and see you on Thursday.